Chapter 898. Bei Yunj looked at him for a while. "No, I'm sorry," she added, "brother." The man lifted his thin eyelids and looked at her calmly with his dark eyes. "What did you do to apologize to me?" Just as Bei Yunj thought of several answers and felt that she could not say them out loud, the man's eyes darkened even more as he sorted out his emotions. He lowered his voice carelessly, seductive and gentle as he said patiently, "If you didn't do anything wrong, why did you apologize to me?" He retracted his gaze and gently pinched her cheek. "Yunyan, to you I have to be different from others." The man smirked, making her like him grow like weeds. Soon his casual voice landed by her ear. It was so ambiguous that it made her blush and her heart beat faster. "Don't you understand? Brother only torments our Yun. Bei Yunj was speechless. When he said this, it was inexplicably flirtatious. At night, Bei Yunj sat in front of the computer and glanced at the advanced order sent by K. She quickly looked away and started to deal with it. About half an hour later, Bei Yunj called K. "The order is done. Get him to transfer the rest of the bill." K could not help but be shocked. So fast? Didn't he just give it to her today? This order was not easy. How good was Max's computer skills? "It's all right. If you still have the order, you can give me more in the next 2 days, Bei Yunj replied slowly and turned off her computer. Kay said, "Big boss, are you short of money?" Bei Yunj's eyebrows moved and she said lazily, It's not easy to raise the flowers at home." Kay was confused. What did she mean by it was not easy to raise flowers? Was Max's family so poor? Were they so poor just to raise flowers? But that shouldn't be the case. Her order was 70 million yuan. No matter what, she could buy a flower bed. Could it be that Max's family owed a huge sum of money to loan sharks? Kay kept imagining things. Bei Yunj did not care and hung up the call. She glanced at Song Yao's message. She had not replied yet. Bei Yunj's eyes darkened as she thought about something. However, what Bei Yunj did not expect was that she would just tell Kay that. CI7 Intelligence Bureau's rumors about her spread like wildfire. From the beginning, it was a version of Kay said that Max owed a huge amount of money and had to come to CI7 to repay his debt. In the end, it became, Max was caught robbing a bank. In order to pay back 10 times the compensation, he borrowed a huge amount of money from Kay, so he had no choice but to come to CI7 to repay the debt. The rumors were so vivid and convincing that people believed them. The next day, sitting in his office, Kay was bored to death as he checked Bei Yunj's order. Suddenly he froze. Order accepted, October 25, 10:27. Completion date, October 25, 10:51. So, she didn't use a day to complete this order? In less than half an hour? Kay suddenly had goosebumps on his back. He knew why the people of the Chaosis had told him that they had sent a god to CI7. Half an hour. Even the senior members could not compare to this efficiency. Kay hurriedly called Chief Jiang Song of the Yunqing branch and told him about Bei Yunj. However, just as Jiang Song put down the phone in shock after hearing the situation, a woman walked in. "Chief, give that order to me. I don't think anyone can complete this order." Chapter 899. Jiang Song frowned subconsciously. Then, he looked at the woman in front of him and said calmly, "No need." His words made the confident smile on the woman's face freeze. "What do you mean?" Jiang Song ignored the gloomy expression of the person in front of him and said calmly, "The matter has been resolved." He moved the mouse and looked at the reply of the person who placed the order. He raised his eyebrows. And the person who placed the order is very interested in the new person. "You let someone else take my order?" Jiang Song. The woman's expression darkened. She clenched her fists. "Qing Lu, you said that there were too many orders and that you couldn't take them all." "You." The woman gritted her teeth. They knew that Qing Lu didn't do it because there were too many orders. She just didn't like the branch and deliberately made things difficult for them. This customer who placed the order had worked with Qing Lu many times. The amount of the order was big enough. She was Qing Lu's big customer. Qing Lu was now an intermediate member. She relied on this person to be promoted to an advanced member. "Chief, are you sure you're not mistaken? I've only been out for a few days and the order given by my old customer is really completed?" Qing Lu narrowed her eyes. "Qing Lu, don't cause trouble. You can be promoted to the headquarters after taking 3 more advanced orders this year." Jiang Song's tone was indifferent, but there was a warning. No matter what, Max was sent by the headquarters. It could be seen that the deputy chief of the headquarters valued Max very much. When Qing Lu heard this, she couldn't help but sneer and leave the branch. Jiang Song looked at Qing Lu's situation and knew that she didn't listen. In the villa, Qing Lu looked at her background and pursed her lips. Soon she found the person who accepted the order. Username, max level, private, age of entry, 2 days in an instant. Qing Lu's expression turned ugly. This Max had only been in for 2 days and she had already taken her advanced order. But what did this private mean? Generally, members below the advanced level couldn't hide their user level unless they deliberately did so. Qing Lu pursed her lips. She saw this person as a thorn in her side. At the same time, in the office, Jiang Song smoked while looking at Max's user information. Username, max level, platinum member, hidden. Jiang Song laughed. The higher-ups really value her. It's no wonder. Entry was a platinum user. Apart from a few senior members, no one else received such treatment. However, Max didn't seem to be interested in CI7 at all. Instead, it was as if the people from the headquarters were shamelessly clinging onto her. Backton Manor. Steward Sun's heart ached when he saw Bei Yunj squatting in front of the flower bed and picking out a few of the most beautiful Juliet roses. Uncle Sun, I'll take these 7. If it weren't for the fact that Neely was too far away from Yun City and Bei Yunj wasn't willing to take more, they would probably be able to gather a large bouquet of roses. All right. Steward Sun put on a fake smile and brought the 7 Juliets to make a bouquet. When will Miss come back? He asked as he picked out other decorations. I don't know. Bei Yunj added, if you need to pay for the manor, you can directly transfer it to my account. Yes, Mississippi, Butler's son nodded. After making a bouquet of roses, he handed it to her. Have a safe trip. Thank you, Uncle Sunday. When the plane arrived in Yun City, it was 10 in the morning the next day. Bei Yunj called Song Yao but no one picked up. Her eyebrows moved instinctively and her eyes darkened. P.S. I wrote a bug yesterday. K is the founder of the Chaotic. So I changed the character of the CI7 headquarters. Deputy Director Shen Yuan. End of chapter. Chapter 900. Bei Yunj went to Song Yao's house but there was no one there. Mrs. Song's shop was also closed. So she called Lu Jian from the investigation team. Has Fu Yanbai come out? The other party was silent for a moment. Then, just as Lu Jian was about to speak, Bei Yunj hung up and called Shen Yuan directly. Max. It was Shen Yuan's first time being called by Max and he was a little flattered. Bei Yunj suppressed the impatience in her voice. Help me investigate someone now. She really knew how to make use of resources. Max, you've only accepted 1 case. I've settled all the 8 cases you gave me yesterday. Bei Yunj's words stunned Shen Yuan. Even the elders did not dare to accept those 8 cases. He had only given them to her as a last resort. She had actually completed it? How did you? My friend is missing. I'm looking for her. Bei Yunj's voice was a little impatient. Missing? Give me her information. Shen Yuan said quickly. About half an hour later, Shen Yuan gave the results of Song Yao's investigation to Bei Yunj. It was a kidnapping. At the pier. Behind them were black and blue waves. The sky was not considered blue and was dark and gray. It made one feel depressed. Don't waste your energy. I'll wait for him to come and ransom her today. A fat man in his 40s was wearing a blue shirt that was not considered clean and was a little slovenly. He smoked a cigarette, a cold smile in his eyes. Rich people are indeed different. They have 2 women by their side. But this is interesting. The fat man sized up Song Yao, who was pursing her lips, and Yu Ling, who was beside her with a frightened expression. Who do you think he will save with the money? I only gave him a chance to save 1 person. Song Yao's gentle eyes were expressionless. She only glanced at the phone not far away, took a deep breath and closed her eyes. However, Yu Ling glanced at Song Yao and a trace of ridicule flashed past her eyes. Fu Yanbai would come and save her? Wishful thinking. Brother. If you let me go, Yanbai will give you a lot of money. This woman. She's not important to Fu Yanbai at all. Yu Ling finally said what she wanted to say in her heart. However, the fat man only glanced at Yu Ling, his eyes cold. Then his attention was attracted by Song Yao's ringtone. The fat man raised his eyebrows. Your friend is very concerned about you. She called more than Fu Yanbai today. Aren't you going to beg me to get someone else to ransom you? Brother, was the person who called you yesterday your child? Song Yao suddenly asked. It's none of your business. The fat man's expression turned ferocious as if he was right. If you tie me up, what will happen to your son in the future? Song Yao's words made the fat man waver. It's none of your business. The Fu Corporation owes me a life. If it weren't for them, my wife wouldn't have died. Fu Yanbai should pay his debt. The fat man said through gritted teeth. Haven't you thought about what kind of life that child will lead without parents in the future? Song Yao asked. The fat man's body stiffened, but his eyes were filled with hatred. Suddenly, a limousine appeared not far away. 7 to 8 people walked out. I'm here to ransom him. Let him go. Fu Yanbai threw the suitcase on the ground and got someone to open it. The suitcase was full of cash. Then who is young Master Fu planning to ransom? The fat man quickly entered a state of alert and said with a smile, Don't act rashly. I have a bomb tied to me. If you're not afraid of everyone dying together, be more obedient. End of chapter. Chapter 901. These words immediately made those bodyguards nervous. They did not expect him to be a lunatic. 10 million yuan to save one person. I'll give you 50 million yuan to let both of them go. The moment Fu Yanbai finished speaking, the fat man laughed. President Fu, is there such a good thing? You can only choose one of the two women. Yanbai, save me. Yu Ling cried and shouted, making Fu Yanbai's heart clench. Ah Ling? Fu Yanbai was flustered, but he calmed himself down. I'm warning you. If you dare to touch her, I'll definitely kill you. Fu Yanbai's expression was ruthless. President Fu, there's no point in threatening me. Why don't you choose? Hearing this, Fu Yanbai took a deep breath, clenched his fists and shifted his gaze to Song Yao. Song Yao was very quiet, as if she was not looking forward to his help. This understanding made Fu Yanbai inexplicably frustrated. But no matter what, he could not let Yu Ling down. That was the woman he swore to protect. Fu Yanbai pursed his lips and said coldly, Let Yu Ling go. These words made Yu Ling happy and excited. In the next moment, she could not help but look at Song Yao, a trace of smugness flashing past her eyes. So what if she was the elder young miss of the Song family for so many years? Didn't they still have to give in to her? Now they even had to give in to her. Hearing this before the fat man could react, his phone suddenly rang. He frowned and saw that it was an unknown number. After answering the call, he turned on the speaker and threw it aside. Song Yao is in your hands? A familiar clear voice made Song Yao freeze and look up instinctively. Yunj, everything that had happened in the past 2 days had not made her afraid, but when she heard this voice, she could not help but feel a lump in her throat. Who are you? The fat man frowned. Why do you have my number? Yu Ling could also tell that this was Bei Yunj's voice and her eyes instantly panicked. Would anything happen to Bei Yunj if she came? Don't talk nonsense with me. If anything happens to Song Yao, all of you will be in trouble. Bei Yunj's voice was filled with a lazy smile, but there was a hint of ruthlessness. Yunj, Song Yao couldn't control her tears in an instant and her voice softened. However, she heard Bei Yunj say in a natural tone, We've found Auntie Song. Wait a little longer, I'll take you home later. Allow? Before Song Yao could finish speaking, Bei Yunj hung up. My friend has a grudge against him. Don't touch my friend. Song Yao said. At this time, Fu Yanbai, who was not far away, also received a call from Bei Yunj. Fu Yanbai, it's your business if you want to spoil someone. If you dare to let anything happen to Song Yao today, Yu Ling and the Fu family will die with her. Bei Yunj couldn't hide the coldness in her voice. She hung up the phone and Fu Yanbai's face darkened. When Bei Yunj had gotten him into the police station, old Master Fu had not been of much help. He did not know if the person from the Hua family would stop Bei Yunj. But if something were to happen, he would be able to protect Bei Yunj. He could be fearless, but this also concerned his family. A dark look flashed past Fu Yanbai's eyes as he said to the fat man, Let me think about it carefully. It seems like this girl's friend is quite useful. The fat man smiled and did not care about Bei Yunj's threat. At this moment, Yu Ling panicked completely. How could Fu Yanbai hesitate? Why didn't he let Song Yao die? End of chapter. Chapter 902. Has he been brought out? Bei Yunj hung up and asked calmly. Yes, he's here. Lu Zhongzhou pulled out the little boy behind him. His eyes were dark and bright and his skin was sickly pale. He was still wearing a hospital gown and looked at Bei Yunj fearfully. Bei Yunj looked at him calmly. After a while, he squatted down slowly and pulled the child over. He's so young? A strong wind was blowing at the pier. Fu Yanbai pursed his lips and looked at Yu Ling, who was crying breathlessly in front of him, and then at Song Yao, who was frowning. Song Yao was probably worried about Bei Yunj. A trace of ridicule flashed past Fu Yanbai's eyes. Okay, the time I gave you is up. You should tell me who you chose. The fat man took out a gun and pointed it at Yuling. Yuling was so frightened that she cried even louder. Yanbai, don't you like me? Save me and let me live. Let's get married, okay? The fat man was expressionless and said with a smile, it seems like President Fu likes this girl in the white dress a lot too. Fu Yanbai frowned and could not be bothered to explain. However, hatred appeared in Yuling's eyes as she pursed her lips and looked at Song Yao. Was Song Yao pretending to be like this to make Fu Yanbai pity her? She had really underestimated her. I have nothing to do with President Fu. If we have to, he can't wait for me to die. After Song Yao finished speaking, the fat man was very surprised. Really? President Fu, I'll give you another chance. If you don't say it, these two beautiful girls will die. The fat man held the gun and aimed it at Yuling. Yuling could not help but scream. Fu Yanbai, save me. Fu Yanbai panicked and immediately said in a low voice, let go of Yuling. Instantly, Yuling heaved a sigh of relief. Song Yao, who was beside her, was not too surprised. She only looked at the sky and thought of Mrs. Song and Bei Yunch. If she left, would anyone take care of her mother in the future? What about Ge, or would she be sad? Song Yao closed her eyes and opened them again. She saw the fat man untie Yuling as promised. But in the next moment, not far away, cars suddenly appeared one after another, directly surrounding the entire pier. The first to descend was a burly man, followed by a beautiful girl. At the back, the team that seemed to be strictly disciplined also came down. Where's Song Yao? Bei Yunj licked her lips and walked to Fu Yanbai's side. I choose Yuling. Fu Yanbai's tone was normal. He turned around. Song Yao has no choice. I have to do this. Bei Yunj fell silent for a moment. Subsequently, Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes curved into crescents and she said with hostility, it seems that young Master Fu didn't learn his lesson after what happened last time. Before the 7 to 8 bodyguards could react, Bei Yunj's tone was cold as she said calmly, tie Fu Yanbai up. Fu Yanbai said sternly, sorry for the offense. After they finished speaking, they tied up the group of bodyguards as well. At this moment, no one noticed that Yuling suddenly walked towards Song Yao. A trace of cruelty and hatred flashed past her eyes. She wanted to push her into the sea. In this way Bei Yunj had no choice. However, Song Yao had already noticed Yuling's strange actions. Instead, she rolled to the side and leaned against the railing, looking at Yuling coldly. After the fat man noticed the commotion, he grabbed Yuling's hair. You're quite King ruthless. Are you the same as the Fu family? He suddenly laughed, making people scared. Why don't we die together today? P.S. Today's update is over. We'll continue tomorrow. I'm almost done with the outline. I'll update more when I'm done. You guys are really amazing, #1 on the monthly votes list. There are still 10 days left. Be good and let Master Pei stabilize the rankings. End of this chapter. Chapter 903. Instantly, Yuling looked terrified, but her face was pale as she begged for mercy in a trembling voice. Let me go. Please let me go. The fat man laughed coldly. Then, just as he was about to ignite the bomb on him and let these people die with him, all of a sudden, the girl's clear and melodious voice rang out unhurriedly. Are you sure you want to die together? As soon as she finished speaking, before the fat man could react, he heard a familiar voice. Daddy? The fat man's face paled and he turned around instinctively. He saw the boy standing beside Bei Yunj. Achin? The fat man's voice was trembling before he looked at Bei Yunj fiercely. What on earth do you want to do? He had already asked his friend to cross out his son's information. Even the police would find it difficult to find him. However, he did not expect her to find Achin. I don't care about other people's matters. But you have to return my person to me, Bei Yunj said slowly. Fu Yanbai's expression darkened. Bei Yunj, isn't Yuling's life a life? Can you tell him to be quiet? Bei Yunj's cold voice sounded. Suddenly, everyone saw the person who had tied Fu Yanbai up punch Fu Yanbai a few times. They were all slaps to his face. Even the fat man did not expect this unbelievably young girl to be so ruthless. She even dared to hit and tie up Fu Yanbai. Bei Yunj? It was Fu Yanbai's first time being hit by someone. His face was burning with pain. He gritted his teeth and stared at Bei Yunj. Why did he think that Bei Yunj was like Yuling back then? There was no other person as arrogant and ruthless as Bei Yunj. Then, Bei Yunj laughed lazily. Her beautiful eyes were cold and her tone was still arrogant and casual. Young Master Fu is quite interesting. Are you teaching me how to do things? The one opposite. I'll give you a chance. If you let Song Yao go now, I promise that no one will hurt little Ah Chen, Bei Yunj said slowly. The fat man looked at the little boy beside Bei Yunj and his heart wavered. He pursed his lips and said in a low voice, Miss Pei, I hope you're telling the truth. After saying this, he untied the rope on Song Yao's leg and let her go to the opposite side. Yu Ling's eyes were filled with fear. No. Didn't I say that Fu Yanbai would let me go if he brought the ransom? Why did you let Song Yao go? You're Fu Yanbai's woman. The fat man had never thought of letting go of Fu Yanbai's woman. I'm not. I have nothing to do with Fu Yanbai. Yu Ling screamed hysterically. Back then, in order to escape from his imprisonment, I tricked that stupid woman into coming to the Fu family to find me. I was also the one who drugged that stupid woman and used her identity to escape. I don't want to stay by Fu Yanbai's side. I deliberately faked my death to get rid of him. As soon as he finished speaking, Song Yao stopped in her tracks and Fu Yanbai froze. Therefore, was what Song Yao said back then true? But he did not believe her and thought that she had caused Yu Ling's death? Fu Yanbai looked at Song Yao instinctively, only to see that her expression was calm and there were no other emotions. In an instant, an indescribable emotion rose in Fu Yanbai's heart, making him almost panic. He claimed that he had never let anyone down, but now, standing in front of Song Yao, he was deeply sinful. By the shore, Bei Yunj said slowly, I gave you a pretty face for nothing. Song Yao was speechless. P.S. Master Pei, I'm not even a human and you're teaching me how to do things? End of this chapter. Chapter 904. However, just as the fat man was too lazy to care about Yu Ling, no one thought that Yu Ling would hate Bei Yunj and Song Yao so much. She suddenly reached out to snatch the fat man's gun. At that moment, with a bang, a gunshot sounded. The moment she saw the gun go off, Bei Yunj was quick and immediately reached out to pull Song Yao over. However, Song Yao seemed to have known what Yu Ling would do and instinctively stood in front of Bei Yunj. Song Yao. Bei Yunj's heart tightened and she immediately hugged Song Yao. She saw blood flowing out of her shoulder and dyeing it red. In the depths of her eyes, there seemed to be a dark red color that could not be suppressed. She looked a little dark and evil. Song Yao looked up and saw that Bei Yunj's condition was not right. She calmed her breathing quietly, but there was a thin layer of sweat on her forehead. When she smiled, she revealed her canine teeth. It's fine. It doesn't hurt very much. However, with that said, Song Yao felt dizzy and gradually lost consciousness. Miss Pei, get someone to bring your friend to the hospital. The voice of the guards behind made Bei Yunj regain her senses. I'll leave her to you. She hid the coldness in her eyes, but her tone was even scarier. After Bei Yunj asked him to carry Song Yao away, the little boy beside her suddenly grabbed her hand. Sister, it wasn't my father who shot her. It was that sister. Sometimes a child's intuition was the most accurate. The current Bei Yunj was inexplicably scary. Bei Yunj walked towards the fat man and Yu Ling panicked. Why aren't you killing her? She's a crazy woman. Yu Ling had a feeling. If no one stopped Bei Yunj would really kill her. Before the fat man could finish speaking, the gun in his hand was suddenly snatched away. It was so fast that he could not react. Bei Yunj loaded the bullet skillfully. In the next moment, everyone heard a gunshot. Yu Ling screamed in pain. Everyone looked to the side and saw that Yu Ling's leg was bleeding. Bei Yunj, stop. After saying this, the guards next to him really used something to stuff Fu Yanbai's mouth. On the pier, Bei Yunj smirked and squatted down again. His smile did not reach his eyes. Do you know what's the most abundant in this area? Before Yu Ling could react, she heard Bei Yunj say cheerfully, Great white shark. Hearing this, Yu Ling felt a chill run down her spine and her scalp went numb. Her eyes were gradually filled with fear. She held her leg that could not move and shook her head frantically. No, you can't do this to me. Yanbai, save me. Yu Ling saw that among the people present, only Fu Yanbai could save her. But when she turned around, Fu Yanbai was already tied up. You wanted to push Song Yao down just now, right? Bei Yunj's eyes curved. After that, before Yu Ling could say anything, Bei Yunj tied her up and threw her into the sea. In less than 10 minutes, the smell of blood spread. Yu Ling struggled in the sea, sinking and floating up. Then, she really saw the shadows of large sharks in the sea. Her eyes were filled with fear and she immediately struggled up with all her might. Sharks. Help, cough. Help. Yu Ling's eyes were filled with fear. While her body felt uncomfortable, the pressure on her heart was even greater. Then, when she looked at the indifferent people on the shore, she had a trauma for the first time. Chapter 905. Yu Ling struggled with all her might, but she saw the sharks getting closer and closer to her. Suddenly, she saw a white shark suddenly open its bloody mouth at her, almost scaring Yu Ling to the point of fainting. But in the next moment, the sound of a bullet rang out. The white shark jumped and patted its body violently, as if it couldn't bear the pain in its eyes. The white shark's blood also dyed the sea red. At this moment, on the shore, Bai Yunj slowly operated the gun in his hand that wasn't very powerful. A few minutes later, Yu Ling was dragged ashore in a sorry state. She couldn't feel her legs anymore, but her entire body was trembling. She didn't know if it was because of the white shark or because of Bai Yunj in front of her. This person was simply a demon. Is it fun? Bai Yunj walked in front of her. Her beautiful eyes curved, but the hostility in her eyes was still terrifying. She was all smiles. Yu Ling shivered and shook her head desperately. Even Fu Yanbai was treated like that. She didn't dare to provoke this person anymore. Bai Yunj half squatted in front of her. In the future, Miss Yu will still have a chance to play. But my marksmanship might not be accurate anymore. Just now, if Bai Yunj's shot didn't hit the white shark, then she would definitely be buried in the fish's stomach. Yu Ling's entire body was trembling. She had to stay far away from Bai Yunj. She had to stay far away from Bai Yunj. In the end, Fu Yanbai and Yu Ling were both thrown into the hospital. A few days later, at the Computing Institute, Bai Yunj held the self-criticism letter that had been revised more than 10 times in her hand and stood lazily in front of Yu Guang, Zhong Shenglin, and Nancy. Must I read it? Zhong Shenglin felt sorry for Bai Yunj and couldn't bear to look at her. But this time, the person sent by the higher-ups to educate Bai Yunj was Professor Yu Guang, the former director of the First Research Institute of the Ministry of National Defense. He went abroad to beat up the guest of honor and threw her into the sea when he returned. If he didn't do some ideological education, this person could poke a hole in the sky. Okay. She began to recite emotionlessly, as a member of the country's scientific research, I should not be impulsive and impulsive. The more Bai Yunj read the 3,000-word self-reflection, the more lazy she became. She almost leaned on the table behind her and said perfunctorily, I should restrain myself and devote myself to the scientific research of my motherland. I should make my motherland proud of me. When she read this sentence, Bai Yunj froze, but she still forced herself to finish reading it calmly. Then she glanced at Si Qingyan coldly. Si Qingyan suppressed his laughter and avoided Bai Yunj's gaze, but he could not help but cover his stomach. Looking at Bai Yunj's unruly appearance and reading such a self-reflection, she was really too cute. Previously, she had submitted her reflection more than 10 times but had not passed, so she asked Si Qingyan to change it. However, he did not expect that he would change the self-criticism letter to be so emotional. Bai Yunj read the rest of the content. The more it was written, the more emotional it became. She stopped reading. Finished reading? Yu Guang asked. Bai Yunj did not even bat an eyelid. Almost. I remember that the content of your self-reflection also said, maintain friendship and serve the people in the future. When you are needed, you are also willing to take on the role and become an honorable volunteer? Yu Guang asked. Bai Yunj. Yes. Si Qingyan, you're finished? This is just nice. I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. Yu Guang nodded in satisfaction. Bai Yunj. In fact, the matter this time had already been made known to the higher-ups. In order to protect Bai Yunj, Zhong Shenglin focused on Bai Yunj's S-rank project this year. This also made the higher-ups see that she was young and had many problems with the evaluation and be lenient this time. Of course, there were also many scientific research friends who were on good terms with Zhong Shenglin, as well as researchers who liked Bai Yunj to begin with, who also spoke up for Bai Yunj, who hadn't been young and impetuous. However, the higher-ups still gave the following measures to deal with Bai Yunj's matter this time. Self-reflection and redeem yourself. Yu Guang snorted. What? You don't want to volunteer? Do you want to go to jail for a few days? Zhong Shenglin couldn't help but get angry. Yu Guang, can you be gentler to my girl? Yu Guang. Actually, Yu Guang also liked the girl in front of him. Although she had committed a lot of crimes, her feelings for the country and the big picture were not something she could have at her age. But who knew, when Bai Yunj heard this, she looked up at him. Can I? There was also some yearning. Professor Yu, you don't have to be lenient with me. Bai Yunj suddenly smiled and added leisurely, it will make me arrogant and let down the country's nurturing. Yu Guang, with Bei Yunji's methods and martial arts skills, even if she went to jail for a few days, she would probably not be the one suffering. Then go and nurture the country's flower buds in advance. Bei Yunji, seeing that Yu Guang was writing the volunteer certificate for her, she still struggled. Professor Yu, I still have to take the college entrance examination. It's okay. Which university do you want to enter? You can just say it in the group, Yu Guang said slowly. They had a research group and the principals of the top 30 universities in the country were all in it. Bei Yunji, however, the principal of Yun University has already invited Si Qingyan and Old Zhong to a few meals. I think you'll have to enter Yun University, Yu Guang said. Bei Yunji, how long will you be a volunteer for? Before you graduate from high school. Anyway, you have nothing to do in high school. Bei Yunji, Yu Guang took out another card and handed it to Bei Yunji. You're the focus of the country's nurturing. You have to be upright. Bei Yunji, this was very difficult. At the hospital. Today, Song Yao had woken up and Bei Yunji was feeding her porridge. Neither of them spoke. Song Yao drank a few mouthfuls and felt inexplicably guilty. Is Yu Ling all right? She was afraid that Bei Yunji would kill Yu Ling because of her. How could Yu Ling be qualified to be Bei Yunji's stain? Bei Yunji looked up at her. Her eyes were clear. Do you know who you're asking? If you cripple Yu Ling, you still have to take responsibility. Song Yao pursed her lips. She's not worthy. You have to take responsibility, Bei Yunji said slowly. Song Yao's heart tightened. What's wrong? I'll go to Hengda for a vacation in 2 days. I won't continue studying. After Bei Yunji said this, Song Yao's heart turned cold. She thought that Hengda had persuaded Bei Yunji to leave. Is it because of the Fu family? No, I don't have time to study. Bei Yunji added, I'll keep my student status. I'll take the college entrance examination when the time comes. But, is it okay if I don't take the year 3 classes and go straight to the college entrance examination? Song Yao asked worriedly. Bei Yunji's lips curled up and she placed the bowl on the table. She supported her cheek lazily with one hand and her beautiful eyes were clear as she leaned against her leg and asked, Tian, do you want to tutor me? End of chapter. Chapter 906. Song Yao thought about it and felt that something was wrong. Did Bei Yunji need her to tutor her? If it wasn't for Bei Yunji, she wouldn't have gotten first place in the competition last time. I still have a part-time job. I don't have time to tutor you. Song Yao was wearing a hospital gown. Her fair palms were placed on her knees and her black hair was draped loosely over her shoulders. She looked gentle and cute. But who knew? The person beside her asked lazily, Is your part-time job more important than me? Song Yao was speechless. It was hard to find someone who was more unreasonable than her. After being pestered for a long time, Song Yao could only say, I'll tutor you when I return to school. Okay. Bei Yunji's eyes curved in satisfaction. Hengda. Bei Yunji had just returned when Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi welcomed her in the canteen. Well done, Master Pei. You took half a month off and played for more than a month. Lu Yuanxi had a hand in his pocket lazily. I'm here to apply for leave this time too. After Bei Yunji finished speaking, Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi looked at each other and asked, What are you doing again? Bei Yunji said, Serving the people. Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing were speechless. Did she go to the hospital to have her brain checked behind their backs? How long will you be away for this time? Chu Zhixing asked. Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows. I'll be back for the college entrance examination and won't be coming to class. Lu Yuanxi could not help cursing. Master Pei, could it be that you were expelled from school and didn't dare to tell us because you were afraid that we would be sad? Soon Chu Zhixing stared fixedly at Bei Yunji. It was as if he felt that this answer was very reliable. Bei Yunji was speechless. In the next moment, Bei Yunji felt a gaze on her and turned around to see Yu, who had made a bet with her back then, looking at her. Why hasn't this person been expelled yet? Bei Yunji asked from the bottom of her heart. Yu, who heard it not far away, was speechless. Lu Yuanxi chuckled. He's third on the cohort list. We can't wait to serve him. Yu's expression didn't look too good when he heard this. Originally he thought that he could get first place, but he didn't expect that he wouldn't even get second place, only third place. On the other hand, Bei Yunji, who had gotten first place, was only 1 point away from getting full marks for her essay. Only by getting first place could he woo Song Yao. But wasn't this number 1 a little too strong? Bei Yunji, remember this. I will definitely defeat you. After that, Yu seemed to be afraid of being caught by Bei Yunji and immediately ran away. Lu Yuanxi and the others, where did this Chinibu come from? Let's not talk about it. I'm going to apply for a leave of absence. Bei Yunj was about to leave when she suddenly heard someone shouting behind her. Bei Yunj? Bei Yunj turned her head and raised her eyebrows. Brother Chu and I are both going to Yun University. Lu Yuanxi's lips curled up unconsciously. His low and casual voice was filled with the unique magnetism of a young man. Don't get it wrong, Master Pei. Bei Yunj was a little surprised. She glanced at the two of them and chuckled. It can't be wrong. However, after such a long suspension, the principal's expression did not look too good. It was only when Bei Yunj called and asked Yu Guang to video call the principal that the principal trembled. He did not expect that the person who had suspended Bei Yunj was Professor Yu Guang. Yu Guang sat on the sofa in the office. Behind him was the Department of Defense's merit wall. The principal could not say a word. After hanging up the call, he immediately issued Bei Yunj's leave request. Bei Yunj, the college entrance examination is not a joke. Although the principal did not like Bei Yunj, he did not want to see Bei Yunj take the wrong path. Chapter 907. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows, a little surprised by the principal's sudden concern. However, looking at his dark expression, it was obvious that he did not approve of her dropping out of school. Bei Yunj smirked. Thank you, principal. The principal paused for a moment before he looked up and accidentally met her eyes. For the first time he looked at this student in front of him seriously. It seemed like he had a lot of prejudice against her in the past. The principal said in a low voice, "If you don't do well, come back and repeat your studies. It's not your first time anyway." Bei Yunj was speechless. These words, there was another meaning. Hengda will always have your back. Seeing Bei Yunj pack her things and leave in the afternoon, the people in Class 7 were very surprised and went forward to ask. After Bei Yunj explained, she left with her things. At the same time, the people outside were also discussing. Hey, have you heard? Bei Yunj seems to have dropped out of school. Dropped out? She's in her 3rd year of high school. What is she thinking? Another person was also very shocked. Who knows? Anyway, it's not like she hasn't been retained before. Another person sneered, I say maybe he'll be persuaded to leave. The school was too embarrassed to announce it and asked Bei Yunj to leave by herself. That can't be. Her results are so good. The girl beside him hesitated. So what if her results are good? She didn't return to school for more than a month last time. She must have angered the teacher. Besides, who knows if her results are real or fake? The people from Class 1 laughed coldly and said, how can anyone go from a bad student to a top student? I think there might be some dirty deal behind this. At this moment, Ling Jiwei, who heard this in the corridor, immediately called Qin Youjiao. Hello? What's the matter? Qin Youjiao had just finished practicing the piano and her tone was a little cold. Did you know that Bei Yunj came to drop out of school today? Ling Jiwei could not hide the excitement in her eyes. I heard that she might have been expelled to give the Qin family some face. Qin Youjiao was surprised and smiled quickly. There's such a thing? It seems like a lot of things happened when I was overseas. However, Wei I saw Bei Yunj in Nili. Our nation. She went overseas recently? Ling Jiwei was in disbelief. Qin Youjiao said casually, yes, I met her at the International Musicians Association. She's a B-rank member. She sighed again. However, she offended our governor's daughter. Yesterday, the governor came to her door and questioned whether she got into the International Musicians Association through the back door and got a high rating. There's such a thing? When Ling Jiwei heard this, she became even more excited. Then what did the International Musicians Association say? The thought of being able to destroy Bei Yunj made her extremely happy. I'm not sure yet. However, I saw Bei Yunj participating in the selection, but her name wasn't on the list, Qin Youjiao said. Ling Jiwei sneered. With her standard, she can enter the International Musicians Association. I think she wants whatever you have, Jiao Jiao. Disgusting. You're such a smart person. So, it's very likely that she took a leave of absence this time because of the International Musicians Association. She's avoiding the limelight. Qin Yuxiao smiled coquettishly, but her eyes were filled with sarcasm. Lie low. Dream on. When the time comes, I will definitely expose her true colors. Ling Jiwei's expression was dark. Don't worry. Since she took a leave of absence, she should be back for the college entrance examination. It's better to explain everything when everyone is here, Qin Youjiao said with a smile. She could not wait to return to China and see Bei Yunj being despised by everyone. Hengda's school motto: perseverance is the most important thing in life. End of chapter. Chapter 908. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations choosing Master Pei was being despised? Half a month later. At the Computing Institute. Zhong Xinglin looked at the volunteer card that Yu Guang had prepared for Bei Yunj and couldn't help but dislike it. Name, Bei Yunj Organization. National Defense Research Institute. A fox's tail can't be hidden, Zhong Xinglin said coldly. Since when did his successor become a member of the National Defense Research Institute? Elder Zhong. Bei Yunj had just finished tutoring Tich and Jasmine. She didn't have time to take off her white coat and looked much colder. How have you been these few days? Zhong Xinglin asked. Bei Yunj didn't hesitate. Not bad. In the beginning she was stuffed into all kinds of anti-drug and anti-evil activities. Wherever there was a shortage of manpower she would be stuffed there. But this month she was arranged to enter a research institute. Bei Yunj had never done anything in her previous life, but in this life she was clearly arranged to do it. Work hard. I don't think you'll be able to do it for long. At the beginning of the year I'll apply for it so that you can focus on the project. Zhong Xinglin felt sorry for Bei Yunj. Okay, I'll go to the research institute first. Bei Yunj smiled. After changing out of her white coat she left the computing institute. CI7 branch. What does this mean? Why did my client's order go to Max? Qing Lu walked in angrily in her high heels. Her eyes were gloomy. I didn't touch the back end. Jiang Song said faintly, it was your client who changed your mind and chose Max. How is this possible? Qing Lu gritted her teeth and questioned. That was her big client and had worked with her many times. Whether she could be promoted to the headquarters this year depended on him. You can check it yourself. In order to change people, this client chose to pay 5 million yuan for lost work and added a price to choose Max. Jiang Song sipped his tea calmly. Added a price? Qing Lu's expression turned even uglier. Jiang Song raised his eyebrows. Max's value isn't that low. Her order is 3 times that of yours. Green Heron's face darkened. Who the hell was this Max? Not long after. Qing Lu left the station angrily but she received a call. Bo Jinxiao asked hesitantly, Cousin, can you get that person to make a new reagent again? You think I'm living a good life? Do you think it's easy to get that reagent? It's been so long and you still can't take down the Chu clan. How dare you make so many promises to me back then? Qing Lu sneered. After hanging up the phone, she sat in the car with a dark expression. Yun City First Research Institute. Bei Yunj took her volunteer pass and came to a spacious office without any obstacles. There was a young man inside. The young man glanced at Bei Yunj and a touch of surprise flashed across his eyes. Then his gaze quickly fell on her volunteer ID, and a touch of disappointment flashed across his eyes. They were not the students from Yun University's laboratory. I'm a handyman. The young man shouted Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj paused for a moment before replying lazily, Yes, what's the matter? The young man was speechless. This new handyman seemed to be a little arrogant. Are you a volunteer? The young man asked hesitantly. Was this person really not here to cause trouble? Otherwise. Bei Yunj's concise words already showed her impatience. The young man was speechless. What were those people thinking? How could someone with such a temper be a volunteer? Besides, this person didn't look very caring. Why was she a volunteer? P.S. Those who have monthly votes and recommendation tickets, remember to vote for Master Pei. End of chapter. Chapter 909. Why are you volunteering? The young man couldn't help but ask in a tone of disapproval. Bei Yunj looked up. Why are you so nosy? The young man was speechless. Okay, this was a nuisance. But fortunately he had applied for 5 volunteers this time. The young man took a deep breath and looked back at the task on the computer. Go and print out this information. Don't appear in front of me for an hour. Bei Yunj accepted the mission leisurely and slowly went out for a walk. She didn't look like a volunteer at all. Until an hour later. Bei Yunj returned to the office and placed the document on Ding Kuixing's desk. She casually glanced at the content on his computer. It looked like a list. She even recognized some of the people on the list. When Bei Yunj looked away, she happened to meet Ding Kuixing's eyes. Are you a student? Are you in high school or university? Ding Kuixing asked. Bei Yunj said slowly, I'm in my 3rd year of high school. Ding Kuixing was speechless. Were all children nowadays so careless about their future? How could she volunteer at such a critical time? Bei Yunj saw that Ding Kuixing wanted to say something to her again, so she immediately turned around and left. She obviously didn't want to listen to his nonsense. Ding Kuixing was speechless. Why would such a problematic student appear here? Until noon. When Bei Yunj had no choice but to come to the office again, she saw that Ding Kuixing was still looking at the list. She said seriously, "Professor Ding, if there's nothing else, I'll go home and study first." Wait a minute. Ding Kuixing called out to Bei Yunj. Do you know this group of people? A dark look flashed past Bei Yunj's eyes. Bei Yunj did know most of the people on the list. They were all in a few group chats. Just as Bei Yunj was about to respond, she heard Ding Kuixing laugh. I must be crazy to ask you if you know them. Bei Yunj was speechless. So, how can I invite these important researchers? Ding Kuixing rubbed his eyebrows and muttered to himself. Why did you invite them? Bei Yunj lowered her eyes and glanced at the name list. She even saw her name. It was one of the few invitees that was bolded in red. I'm planning a global exhibition of innovative technology projects. Ding Kuixing furrowed his brows. If these great gods didn't participate, the others would be even more unwilling to participate in this technology exhibition. Bei Yunj said without hesitation, you can invite an important core candidate first, and then talk to some people who are interested in this person. And so on. If you use some special benefits to get them to help you promote it, you should be able to invite a lot of people. But I might not be able to invite any powerful core members. Ding Kuixing frowned. Don't be so resolute. Bei Yunj calmly opened the bottle of mineral water. Give them some time to think about it. It's up to them whether they want to come or not. Those who are willing to come may not only have one goal, so you just have to arrange the science and technology exhibition well and make them satisfied with the second goal. Ding Kuixing was stunned for a long time before he looked at her. How do you know this? This didn't seem like something that a senior high school student should know. Bei Yunj said naturally, I was volunteering at an anti-pyramid scheme event 2 days ago. I heard that pyramid schemes do this. Ding Kuixing was speechless. This was the first time he had seen someone apply what he had learned. End of chapter. Chapter 9-10. Ding Kuixing held it in for a long time and could only nod calmly. Well, I didn't go to the event for nothing. Bei Yunj responded perfunctorily, drank the mineral water again and walked to the side. Then, Ding Kuixing was thinking. Then who should I invite to be my core candidate? Half a minute later. Ding Kuixing's eyes suddenly lit up. I got it. I can invite them. As soon as he finished speaking, Ding Kuixing suddenly heard Bei Yunj, who was beside him, cough suddenly. He almost lost his grip on the mineral water bottle in his hand. He was deep in thought. Look, even you are so excited. Others must be very excited too. Bei Yunj was speechless. Bei Yunj did not expect that this trap would fall on her. Ding Kuixing chattered on. However, there is a high chance that you won't be able to invite them. Such a super genius will definitely be heavily protected. They will be arranged in the top research lab to work on the happiest projects. How would they have time to come to my science and technology exhibition? Bei Yunj was speechless. Your name is? Bei Yunj? Ding Kuixing finally remembered to look at Bei Yunj's work card. However, when he saw her unit, he could not help but be stunned. The First Research Institute of the Ministry of National Defense? Back then, he wanted to enter the Research Institute of the Ministry of National Defense but did not succeed. What was going on with this third-year student? I'm not. After Bei Yunj denied it, she glanced at the other volunteers at the door. I'm going to help. Ding Kuixing felt that there was something wrong with this student. Until the students of Yun University's laboratory arrived. A few people sat in the conference hall. Professor Ding, Teacher Ning told us to work hard for you. A few of them looked confident. The spots to follow Professor Ding this time were also snatched by various laboratories. After all, Professor Ding's science and technology exhibition this time was said to be very important. At that time, they would be able to meet many great gods in the scientific research field and stand out in front of those people. Ding Kuixing nodded. I heard that you have a student called Chuanlin? Professor, I am Chuanlin. A pretty girl smiled. She had the demeanor of a lady from a wealthy family. Not bad. I heard that you entered the Academy of Science this year. You're amazing, Ding Kuixing praised. Chuanlin just smiled embarrassedly and said nothing. The people around her immediately teased, Anlan skipped a grade to get here. The youngest junior sister in our laboratory is more advanced than all of us in the Academy of Science. That's right. She's good-looking and outstanding. She's a genius. The surrounding praises made Chu Enlan shake her head modestly. Everyone still takes care of me. Subsequently, just as Chu Enlan turned her head and thought that Ding Kueixing would continue speaking, he suddenly stood up. She shouted at the top of her lungs, "Pei Yunj, come to the meeting." Next, Ding Kueixing saw Bei Yunj outside the window and paused for a moment. He pretended not to hear anything and prepared to leave. A few minutes later, Bei Yunj was brought in and sat next to Ding Kueixing. "All right, let's continue the meeting," Ding Kueixing said with satisfaction. The students in Yun University's laboratory couldn't help but frown and look at each other. "Professor Ding, this is..." Ding Kueixing came back to his senses. "Oh, I forgot to introduce her. She's a volunteer student who came to help this time, Bei Yunj." One of the students asked thoughtfully, "May I know which school this student is from?" End of chapter. Chapter 9-11. Hongda High School. Bei Yunj glanced at them and said slowly. Suddenly one of them smiled and said, "High school? I think you're 19 or 20 years old. I thought you were already in your first or second year." He turned to look at Chu Anlin. "Lan, you seem to be about the same age as this student." Chu Anlin only smiled faintly and glanced at Bei Yunj, not looking at her anymore. "I'm 20 years old. I'm slightly older than student Pei." With that said, there were also people who kept looking at Bei Yunj and Chu Anlin. Their intentions were obvious. They were about the same age, but one was already a graduate student while the other was still a high school student. "Let's talk about the content of this technology exhibition," Ding Kueixing interrupted them and said casually. When they were assigning tasks, they realized that the work that gave them the best chance to come into contact with those top researchers was in Bei Yunj's hands. Ding Kueixing would ask for Bei Yunj's opinion on many of the plans. They could not help frowning. Who was this volunteer? Including Chu Anlin, this was her first time sitting on the bench in front of the teacher. Chu Anlin pinched the pen in her hand and glanced at Bei Yunj. Her expression immediately changed into an indifferent one. "No way. Why did Professor Ding give such an important matter to Bei Yunj? How is our Anlin not outstanding enough? She can't even compare to a volunteer." Before that person could finish speaking, someone pushed his arm, telling him to speak less. When he looked up again, he found that Chu Anlin's expression was not very good either. "Anlin, it's not a professional job. It's the same no matter who it is." With that said, Chu Anlin walked out. However, she did not expect to see a familiar figure with Bei Yunj. Song Yao had been discharged from the hospital, but because of the injury on her back she could not work, so she came to deliver food to Bei Yunj. Under the magnolia tree. Song Yao paused. "You're volunteering here?" Bei Yunj answered carelessly. Song Yao was speechless. She had been overthinking. She had thought that Bei Yunj would delay the college entrance examination. He had almost forgotten how many immortals Bei Yunj knew in the academic world. Unintentionally, Song Yao's eyes met with someone not far away. "Chu Anlin," Song Yao said instinctively. Bei Yunj glanced at the cold-faced Chu Anlan. "Do you know her?" "I do." Song Yao thought for a while. "She doesn't like me very much." Bei Yunj didn't care and continued to eat. "I see." Song Yao's tone was still calm as she hugged the fruit box. "She used to be friends with Yu Ling, but they seem to have fallen out because of Fu Yanbai." Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect Fu Yanbai to be so popular. Back in the office, Bei Yunj sat in her seat and began to play the game naturally. The surrounding laboratory students looked at Bei Yunj with even more sarcastic expressions. She didn't know why Professor Ding would take a fancy to such a person. It was obvious that such a person was here to gain experience. With one look, it was obvious that he wasn't even qualified to enter Yin University. So, Ding Kueixing returned with a laptop. "Come over and have a meeting." Everyone gathered in the conference room and heard Ding Kueixing say, "I have a Professor Shui project on hand. There are some problems with the data. Which one of you is better at computing?" Someone immediately said, "Professor, Chu Anlin's undergraduate degree is physics and computing." End of this chapter. Chapter 9-12. Ding Kueixing was quite surprised. Not only had Chu Anlin skipped a grade at her age, but she had also obtained a double degree. Then Anlan, take a look. Can you change the data for this thing? Ding Kueixing asked. Chu Anlin looked at the data on the computer and smiled as she pushed her hair back. It shouldn't be difficult. I'll try my best. That's good. Ding Kuishing was relieved. He handed this project to Chu Anlin and continued to work on other matters. From the beginning to the end, Bei Yunj did not say a word. After the meeting ended, someone mocked, "I thought that person should be very capable. She couldn't even raise any opinions in a meeting. Professor Ding didn't arrange any work for her either. She must be here to mess around." A few students in the laboratory seemed to be very dissatisfied with Ding Kuishing's importance to Bei Yunj. They said sourly, "If I were her, I would definitely feel inferior seeing such an outstanding person like Enlan." In the office, Chu Anlin's progress was smooth at first, but her progress slowly stagnated. She frowned and had no clue for half an hour. Then the student beside her saw this situation. "Enlan, is this project too difficult? You seem to have been stuck for a long time." Chu Anlin sensed that Ding Kuishing was also looking at her and immediately smiled. "No, it's just that I feel that my friend seems to know more about this data conversion. He just did a similar project some time ago and his results were not bad. Enlan, are you going to ask Zhou Xing to help you?" Instantly the others became even more excited. Zhou Xing was a popular figure in the computing department of Yun University. "Yes, he doesn't have anything on today." After Chu Anlin finished speaking, the others were envious. "I knew it. The big boss only plays with the big boss." Ding Kuishing heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Chu Anlin's words. It was good that it could be solved. It was said that Professor Xue had been preparing for this project for a long time. If Chu Anlin could not solve it, he would probably have to be thick-skinned and calculate the people he borrowed. At this thought, he walked out with a cigarette and lighter, wanting to relax. However, he did not expect to see a familiar figure in the corridor. "Brother Yen." Ding Kuishing called out to Si Qingyan excitedly, his eyes shining. However, the next moment, when Si Qingyan turned around to look at him, Ding Kuishing realized that Bei Yunj was talking to Si Qingyan. "I'm going to get busy." After that, Bei Yunj left. Si Qingyan called him Master Pei, but Bei Yunj ignored him. The next moment, before Si Qingyan could turn around, he heard Ding Kuishing asking tentatively, "Master Pei?" Si Qingyan was shocked when he suddenly heard this. Then he immediately reacted, "You're looking for me?" Ding Kuishing was a little nervous. "Brother Yen, there's a problem with Professor Xue's project. Can you help me take a look?" "No." Si Qingyan rejected him without hesitation. He was here to watch Bei Yunj volunteer, not to volunteer with Bei Yunj. "But it's very difficult for us to modify that project," Ding Kuishing continued, unwilling to give up. "Ding Kuishing, are you stupid? Bei Yunj is here and you want me to change it?" Si Qingyan suspected that Ding Kuishing's brain was crooked. Ding Kuishing was speechless. Only Si Qingyan could scold him like this. Si Qingyan and Ding Kuishing were about the same age, but one was already a full professor at a young age, and the other was still an associate professor. End of this chapter. Chapter 9:13. However, Ding Kuishing suddenly reacted. "Wait, what do you mean by that? What did he mean by Bei Yunj was here and he wanted him to change it?" "It means what I said. I gave you a cheat, but if you can't do the exhibition well, the higher-ups will definitely tear you apart." Si Qingyan chuckled. Bei Yunj was treated like a treasure by Zhong Xinglin at the Computing Institute and didn't do anything for her. Now that she had finally been outsourced, Ding Kuishing, this fool, wouldn't make good use of it. Cheat. Ding Kuishing's mind was stuck. Bei Yunj, is it cheat? When he regained his senses, Ding Kuishing continued, "But Chu Anlin said that the conversion method for this project has to be used by Marcus. How can Bei Yunj know who Marcus is? What could a third-year student know?" Si Qingyan. "Then do you know who it is?" Ding Kuishing immediately smiled. "If I don't know who it is, would I still be here?" She was a rising star in the scientific research field, a god who even dared to reject the Farisk Prize. However, the Chinese circle in our country liked her so much. It was said that Farisk had mailed the trophy to the Computing Institute, but it was still returned. The big boss's temper was indeed unpredictable. Si Qingyan, then? Before Ding Kuishing could speak, Si Qingyan handed the thing in his hand to Ding Kuishing. "This is what the old man asked me to bring to Bei Yunj. Remember to give it to her." With that said, once Si Qingyan completed his task, he prepared to leave. Ding Kuishing could not stop him. Back in the office, Ding Kuishing looked at Bei Yunj, who was watering the flowers outside the door, with a sense of scrutiny. Could it be that she was also a genius student? However, not long after, Ding Kuishing saw Bei Yunj look around leisurely and suddenly pluck the flowers planted by the director. Ding Kuishing's face contorted. Whose F***king troublesome child was this? She even dared to pluck Director Tian's flowers? Bei Yunj, come in. Don't pluck them again. Do you hear me? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows lazily when she realized that she had been discovered. This was exactly the same as what Bai Mingzhang had done in the past. If Dean Tian knew about this, he would definitely be furious. After Bai Mingzhang left, Bei Yunj came. Bei Yunj put down the watering can in her hand and twirled the small white flower around her index finger. She didn't feel guilty at all. He raised the wrong flower. Bei Yunj took it for granted. Ding Kuishing put on a fake smile. How do you know that Principal Hua Tian has been raised wrongly? Bei Yunj, Tian Hejing had mentioned in the group that he was cultivating a type of flower that could replace rare herbs, but this flower was obviously different from what he had described. It was probably because Dean Tian was on a business trip and his assistant didn't notice, so he raised the ordinary small wildflowers as experimental plants. But she checked it again. Fortunately, the experimental flower had already sprouted. Ding Kuishing took a deep breath. Hurry up and throw the flower away. Don't let the dean's assistant see it. Also, this is from Professor Si Qingyan. As soon as he finished speaking, it instantly attracted the attention of others. Si Qingyan? Wasn't that the young professor from the computer science department? Even Chu Anlin couldn't help but look over and realize that Ding Kuishing had given Bei Yunj a box of chocolates. Why would Professor Si Qingyan give this person chocolates? Bei Yunj actually knew a professor from Yun University? Yes. Bei Yunj took it and placed it aside. End of chapter. Chapter 9:14. You know Si Qingyan? Ding Kuishing could not help asking. The others also wanted to know the answer. However, Bei Yunj clearly did not want to tell them more. She only replied calmly, The rest of the people instantly felt stifled. Although Professor Si Qingyan looked refined and gentle, he was actually very difficult to approach. But Si Qingyan actually gave Bei Yunj chocolate. Anlin, how's your relationship with Professor Si? Someone asked softly. Chu Anlin's expression did not look too good either. She pursed her lips. So. In fact, Chu Anlin had spent a lot of effort to build a good relationship with Si Qingyan back then, but as she thought, Si Qingyan was not an easy person to get close to. At the door, a handsome boy in a red and black checkered shirt walked in with a gentle smile. Junior sister Chu, instantly. Just as everyone was paying attention to Bei Yunj, Chu Anlin suddenly saw a figure at the door. Her eyes lit up and she immediately stood up. Senior brother Zhou, I'm here. I'm happy to help. Zhou Xing smiled and sat beside Chu Anlan again. He looked at the data. The others became excited. This was Zhou Xing from Yun University's second year? Senior brother Zhou, can you help me take a look at this data? Chu Anlin's expression finally softened. Zhou Xing pushed his glasses up, his expression slightly stiff. Junior, this project is not as simple as you think. It involves a very comprehensive content. I might be unable to do it instantly. However, 10 minutes later, Chu Anlin forced a smile and said, I think we only need Marcus's algorithm. Senior brother Zhou, don't you know Marcus's research very well? Alright, I'll take a look again. Everyone fell silent. Chu Anlin felt like she had been slapped in the face and her face burned. Senior brother, why don't you take a look again? When Ding Kuishing saw this, he suddenly thought of what Si Qingyan had said. He looked thoughtfully at the place where Bei Yunj had left. Zhou Xing was under a lot of pressure, especially when he was being watched by so many junior sisters and junior brothers. However, he suddenly asked, Yunj, can you try changing this data? With that said, a few minutes later, Zhou Xing was still at a loss. Ding Kuishing happened to see Bei Yunj coming back from the bathroom. Subsequently, someone was not convinced. Professor Ding, aren't you being too biased? Are you comparing a high school student to us? Ding Kuishing felt embarrassed that he actually made things difficult for a third-year high school student. When the others heard this, they were also stunned for a long time. However, Chu Anlan's lips suddenly curved and there was a trace of mockery in her eyes. Perhaps Student Pei can do it? It's okay to let her try. That's right, who are you looking down on? The straight-A student in our department and Zhou Xing from the computer department don't know how to do it. How can she do it? The others were also indignant. Yunj, you're still? Before Ding Kuishing could finish speaking, Bei Yunj had already changed into her jacket, walked over to the computer and glanced at the data. Since Bei Yunj had come knocking on her door, she was naturally willing to embarrass Bei Yunj along with her. However, Ding Kuixing felt awkward for a moment. He felt that he had dragged Bei Yunj down with him. Bei Yunj looked at it for a long time. Then, just when everyone thought that this person clearly did not know anything and actually dared to come over and pretend to be a straight-A student and was not afraid of being slapped in the face, they saw Bei Yunj's eyebrows move. It's this data? Chapter 9:15. Do you know Si Qingyan? Ding Kuixing could not help but ask. The others also wanted to know the answer. However, Bei Yunj clearly did not want to tell them more. She only replied indifferently, yes. And the others immediately felt stifled. Although Professor Si Qingyan looked gentle, he was actually very difficult to approach. But Si Qingyan actually gave Bei Yunj chocolate. Anlan, how is your relationship with Professor Si? Someone asked softly. Chu Anlan's expression did not look too good either. She pursed her lips. Average. In reality. Back then, Chu Anlan had also spent a lot of effort to build a good relationship with Si Qingyan. But just as she thought, Si Qingyan was not someone who was easy to get close to. At the door, a handsome boy wearing a red and black checkered shirt walked in. He smiled warmly. Junior sister Chu, immediately. Just when everyone was paying attention to Bei Yunj, suddenly Chu Anlan saw a figure at the door. Her eyes lit up and she immediately stood up. Senior brother Zhou, I'm here. Happy to help. Zhou Xing smiled and sat next to Chu Anlan again. He glanced at the data. The others were excited. This was Zhou Xing from Yunde Yen Air. Senior brother Zhou, can you help me take a look at this data? Chu Anlan's expression finally eased. Zhou Xing pushed up his spectacles. His expression was slightly stiff. Junior sister, this project is not as simple as you think. It involves very comprehensive content. I may have the heart but not the strength. Instantly. However, 10 minutes later. Chu Anlan forced a smile. I think we just need Marcus algorithm. Senior apprentice brother Zhou, don't you know Marcus research very well? Okay. I'll take a look. Everyone was silent. Chu Anlan felt as if she had been slapped in the face. Her face was burning. Senior brother, why don't you take a look? Seeing this scene, Ding Kuixing suddenly thought of what Si Qingyan had said. He looked thoughtfully at the place where Bei Yunj had left. Zhou Xing was under a lot of pressure, especially when so many junior sisters and junior brothers were watching him. However, he suddenly asked, Yunj, can you try to help me change this data? As soon as he finished speaking. Until a few minutes later. Zhou Xing was still at his wit's end. Ding Kuixing happened to see that Bei Yunj had just returned from the washroom. Subsequently, someone was not convinced. Professor Ding, aren't you being too biased? Are you comparing a high school student with us? Ding Kuixing felt ashamed. He actually made things difficult for a high school student. When the others heard this, they were also stunned for a long time. However, Chu Anlan's lips suddenly curled up and a faint mocking look flashed across her eyes. Perhaps student Pei can do it? It doesn't matter if she gives it a try. That's right. Who is she looking down on? Even our top student and Zhou Xing from the computer science department can't do it. How can she do it? The others were also indignant. Yunj, you'd better. Before Ding Kuixing finished speaking, Bei Yunj had already changed into her coat, walked to the computer and glanced at the data. Since Bei Yunj had come to her door, of course, she was willing to let Bei Yunj embarrass herself with her. Ding Kuixing felt embarrassed for a moment. He felt that he had dragged Bei Yunj into the water. Bei Yunj looked at it for a long time. Then, just when everyone thought that this person obviously didn't know anything, she actually dared to come over and pretend to be a top student and was not afraid of being slapped in the face. They saw Bei Yunj frown. Is it this data? Chapter 9:16. Bei Yunj glanced at them with an ambiguous gaze and picked up a bottle of mineral water lazily. She casually glanced at the data and her fingers jumped on the keyboard, changing it. Soon someone shouted, Bei Yunj, don't touch Professor Shue's data. If the project is ruined, Professor Shue will definitely not let you off. Bei Yunj drank her water and stared at the screen. She asked slowly, he can even make a mistake in this kind of data. How can he not let me off? Very quickly, the data was changed back to its original state. Instantly, the others were speechless. What did she mean? Was she looking down on Professor Shue? But at this moment, seeing Bei Yunj change the data, Ding Kuixing seemed to understand why Si Qingyan said that she had given him a cheat. It's done. After Bei Yunj was done, she returned to the sofa to open the chocolates. Just now, Bei Yunj was slower to use the keyboard with one hand, but it only took her about 10 minutes. This made the smile on Chu Anlin's face freeze as she stared at the screen. How was this possible? Bei Yunj was just a repeater. Even Zhou Xing could not change this data, so how could she? Senior Zhou. This data must be wrong. Can you see if you can change it back? Someone immediately asked. I really have to take my hat off to her. How can there be such a person? Why is a third-year high school student pretending to know when she doesn't? She was able to enter Yun University. Before they could finish complaining, Zhou Xing interrupted them. The data she changed seems to be correct. Instantly, Ding Kuixing snapped out of his daze. He walked to the computer and took a photo for Professor Xue. A few minutes later, Professor Xue sent a voice message. After Ding Kuixing clicked on it, Professor Xue's voice reached everyone's ears. Sure, someone knows how to change this data. This is an improved algorithm. Not many people in the country know how to do it. Xiaoding, where did you find such a teacher? Introduce her to me? Instantly. The atmosphere became even colder. Ding Kuixing's body stiffened as he instinctively looked at the cheat. The others felt their faces burning. They were the ones who said that Bei Yunj was pretending to be knowledgeable when she didn't know anything. They were also the ones who provoked Bei Yunj and asked her to change it. Now he felt like his face had been slapped swollen. Yunj, are you really a year 3 student? Ding Kuixing asked with difficulty. I'm not. You are? Bei Yunj looked up at him. Ding Kuixing, very good, he was still the troublemaker he knew. In the next moment, Bei Yunj's gaze slowly swept across these people. The teaching standards of Yun University are quite surprising. It was indeed much worse than Nili University. Nili University didn't let down its reputation as the top school in the world. They were so angry that their faces changed. Chu Enlan's expression turned ugly, but she couldn't do anything. When Zhou Xing left, he couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj again and murmured, that girl just now seems a little familiar. Senior brother, you must be joking. She's a repeater. Chu Enlan realized that she had said something wrong and corrected herself. She's a student of Hengda. She probably hasn't come into contact with a university yet. Even Professor Xue praised her so much. If she enters Yun University, she will definitely be a talent that the physics and computing departments will fight for. After all, the project just now involved many important points in physics. Zhou Xing's straightforward praise made Chu Enlan feel a sense of danger. Chu Enlan's eyes were dark. Did Song Yao specially find her friend to go against her? End of chapter. Chapter 917. After returning, Chu Anlin saw that Ding Kuixing was getting more and more interested in Bei Yunj. He even gave Bei Yunj the opportunity to invite famous people in the academic field. I still hope that more foreign researchers can come to this exhibition. Ding Kuixing frowned. Luo Yunxing from the Institute of Computational Technology in our nation. Can you try to invite him? Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow. She did not seem to have any impression of this person. Luo Yunxing? At this moment, Chu Anlin suddenly said, why don't I invite Uncle Luo? Ding Kuixing was stunned. Anlin, you know Luo Yunxing? This was all the famous scholars in our nation. Chu Anlin appeared humble and smiled naturally. My father and Uncle Luo are high school classmates. I've seen Uncle Luo a few times. When the others heard this, their eyes were filled with envy. As expected of an academic family. Other than the high IQ she inherited, she also had such strong connections. If it were anyone else, how could they have such connections? The rest of the people glanced at Bei Yunj thoughtfully. Seeing that she was expressionless, they only felt that Bei Yunj was pretending to be natural. Then this job is very suitable for Enlan. Immediately, someone came out to stand in line. No matter what, they did not want to be defeated by a high school student. Yes, Professor Ding. Enlan is old Master Chu's daughter. Maybe she knows a few people on the list. Hearing their words, Ding Kuixing was a little hesitant. In the end, he could only say, how about this? The two of you will work together and assign tasks. With that said, Bei Yunj and Chu Anlin frowned. Chu Anlin did not expect Ding Kuixing to be so persistent. That's fine too. Chu Anlin smiled and turned to look at Bei Yunj. The people on this list might not be free, but we have to invite at least 7 or 8 people for Professor Ding, right? Hearing this, everyone felt that Bei Yunj would definitely mess it up. It was not difficult for Chu Anlin to invite 7 or 8 scholars. However, for a high school student like Bei Yunj who did not have any connections, it was simply impossible. Bei Yunj glanced at the list and replied casually, sure. When Chu Enlan saw this, a touch of complacency and slyness flashed across her eyes. Bei Yunj actually agreed. Did she think that people in the academic circle were so easy to get close to? After Ding Kuixing finished the call outside, he entered the door and saw Chu Anlin making a call to invite the scholars. Bei Yunj was still playing with her phone. His eyelids twitched and he walked over. Chu Anlan has already invited 2 people. Aren't you going to ask for their advice and ask for their help? In Ding Kuixing's opinion, this job was also beneficial to Bei Yunj. By volunteering here, he could also come into contact with many top talents. There's no rush. Bei Yunj was still chatting in the group. Ding Kuixing glanced at it. The group name was Loving Family Rose? What kind of unique family group was this? Forget it. If you can't persuade her, I'll do it. Ding Kuixing had already given up on Bei Yunj. At this moment, Chu Anlin heard Ding Kuixing's conversation not far away and the corners of her mouth curled up. At this moment she made a video call to Luo Yunxing. A few minutes later, the video call went through. Chu Anlin was full of smiles. Before she could say anything, she heard the other party ask in an unpleasant tone, "What's the matter? Why did you video call me? P.S. Thank you for helping Master Pei to get on the list. He's still trying to get on the list. Is there anyone who can vote for him?" End of chapter. Chapter 9:18. Chu Anlan's expression froze. She did not expect Luo Yunxing to be so impatient. Luo Yunxing frowned when he saw that Chu Anlan did not react. But in the next second, Chu Anlan reacted quickly. "Uncle Luo Yunxing will hold a scientific research exhibition in a few days. We will invite many people. Do you want to come and take a look?" "I'm not free." Luo Yunxing's rejection attracted the attention of the people around him. This made Chu Anlan almost unable to maintain the expression on her face. She forced a smile and said, "But there should be many people coming to the exhibition." Seeing this scene, everyone else was terrified. Even Chu Anlan was frustrated, not to mention Bei Yunj. "Anlan, didn't Chu Yeming tell you that I'm working on an important project recently?" Luo Yunxing's tone was indifferent. Moreover, he and Chu Yeming were not close friends. They were just acquaintances. Chu Anlan's face turned pale. Luo Yunxing took a deep breath. Just as he was about to turn around and say something to Chu Anlan, his sharp eyes suddenly saw a flash of a figure. He froze. Who was the person who just walked out? Did he see wrongly? Why was she here? Where are you now? Luo Yunxing's sudden question stunned Chu Anlan. The First Research Institute of Yuncheng. I see. Luo Yunxing remembered that she was in Yuncheng. He could not help but ask, who are the participants? Chu Anlan saw that there was a turning point and immediately said, I'm not sure yet, but there will definitely be many important scholars participating. Luo Yunxing's heart was itching. He did not want to know who would be participating in the exhibition. He only wanted to know if she would be participating. About this, Luo Yunxing was wondering if he had seen wrongly. But in the next moment he saw the person at the door holding the chocolate and wobbling in. He immediately changed his words. I still have time to go. When Chu Anlan heard this, she seemed to be struck by good luck and instantly became excited. Really? That's great. Chu Anlan was wild with joy. After hanging up the phone, Chu Anlan glanced at Bei Yunj and the corners of her lips curled up. She hadn't invited any scholars yet. It seemed like she really didn't have any connections. At this moment the others couldn't help but sigh. Anlan, you even managed to invite Luo Yunxing. You're amazing. Chu Anlan smiled faintly. As you can see, Uncle Luo has a bad temper. I guess it's because of my dad that I was able to invite him this time. Hearing that, the others became even more envious. It was so good to have a father who was a researcher. If it was someone else, Luo Yunxing would have gone berserk. Ding Kuixing watched the video and felt that Luo Yunxing's eyes weren't on Chu Anlan. The next day, Chu Anlan had already invited 4 scholars. She looked at the list and saw that everyone who could be invited had already been invited. She couldn't help but sneer. The rest were top researchers who didn't even have a complete set of contact information. Not to mention Bei Yunj, even her father, Chu Yeming, was rarely seen. She wanted to see how Bei Yunj was able to invite these immortals. No. The people in the corridor were laughing. Does she really think she's so great? It's been 2 days and she didn't even dare to make a phone call. Professor Ding actually thinks highly of such a person. End of chapter. Chapter 9:19. In the group of people, a man and a woman were chatting. The rest of the people were waiting to watch the show. Xiaomeng, she's here. The person next to them had sharp eyes. When he saw Bei Yunj from afar, he immediately reminded her. However, the woman did not seem to care. Instead, she crossed her arms and laughed proudly. So what if she's here? Do you think I'm afraid of her? When the man next to her saw this, he imitated the conversation between Ding Kuixing and Bei Yunj even more exaggeratedly. When he saw that Bei Yunj was here, he became even more excited. Just when everyone wanted to laugh out loud, the next thing that happened caused the atmosphere to change abruptly. The man was suddenly hit in the face by a bottle of mineral water. Even his teeth were loosened from the impact. His whole body crashed into the water dispenser. His hand accidentally touched the pipe and he instantly howled in pain. This scene stunned everyone present, and the atmosphere became stiff and cold. The woman who was originally proud and complacent suddenly felt a chill down her spine. She stared blankly at the person being discussed and walked slowly to them. What? Do you have a problem with me? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. Her eyes were bright and unruly. Her aura was so strong that no one dared to say anything. The next moment, before anyone could react, Bei Yunj suddenly lifted the man by the collar and slammed him against the wall. The dull sound of bones cracking was not loud, but it was terrifying. The man howled in pain, but he did not dare to make too much noise. He could only look at the person in front of him in fear. Bei Yunj was laughing, but her eyes were cold. She patted the man's face as if she was joking. Do you know why I'm here? However, for a moment, the man felt as if an evil spirit had attached itself to his back. He trembled all over. This is the Research Institute. Bei Yunj, Professor Ding is in the office. If you dare. The man reacted and immediately wanted to threaten Bei Yunj. However, the next moment, a punch landed on his face. The man trembled in pain. He covered his face in disbelief. Then he heard her ask playfully, "If I dare to do what?" Everyone else was shocked. When they came back to their senses, they were afraid that Bei Yunj would be the next one to make trouble for them. The girl standing next to him felt her legs go weak, and she took a step back in fear. Raise your head. Bei Yunj's tone was casual, but the boy who was leaning against the wall had no choice but to endure the pain. His entire body trembled as he slowly straightened his back. Classmate Pei. Classmate Pei, I was just joking. Really? I like jokes too. Bei Yunj curled her lips and suddenly kicked him in the stomach with her knee. This made the boy bend down subconsciously, and his face was almost distorted. Bei Yunj smiled and asked slowly, "Do you like this joke?" When the surrounding people saw this scene, only one thought popped into their minds. Running away from this place, this person was too scary. They wanted to stay as far away from Bei Yunj as possible. They had never met anyone who dared to make a move in the Research Institute. Next, Bei Yunj let go of the boy's collar and glanced at everyone present. Is there anyone else who wants to make fun of me? The few people present shook their heads vigorously. Making fun of her was equivalent to risking one's life? Don't stand on ceremony. If you want to make fun of me, go ahead. Bei Yunj picked up a bottle of mineral water and glanced at them lazily. She smiled and said, "If you want to be hospitalized, just keep talking." Everyone, end of chapter. Chapter 920. Then, everyone watched as Bei Yunj threw the mineral water bottle into the rubbish bin and left. Only then did they heave a sigh of relief. It was too depressing just now. This is the first time I've encountered such a scene. Someone came back to his senses and felt as if his strength had been sucked out. He muttered weakly. The others did not say anything, but they thought so too. This Bei Yunj was really too scary. Why would such a person be a volunteer? It was ridiculous. In the next few days, even Ding Kuixing felt that the children in Yun University's laboratory were avoiding Bei Yunj like a snake or scorpion. During the meeting, whenever Bei Yunj spoke, no one dared to even raise their heads. However, in the past 2 days, the planning for the conference was nearing its end. Professor Ding, this is the list of people invited to the exhibition, Chu Anlin said with a smile. Ding Kuixing glanced at these names and asked in surprise, "So many?" Chu Anlin had already contacted 9 scholars, including a well-known researcher like Luo Yunxing. Of course, I will do my best to complete the mission given by Professor Ding. Ding Kuixing nodded. Thank you for your hard work. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Anlin's gaze landed on Bei Yunj again. I'll send you the list tomorrow. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, the others felt disdain in their hearts. They felt that Bei Yunj could not invite these researchers at all. However, because of what happened a few days ago, no one dared to mock Bei Yunj in front of her. Okay. Ding Kuixing looked quite happy. In fact, he did not have high hopes for Bei Yunj. After all, he had invited many famous researchers according to Bei Yunj's method. However, when Chu Anlin heard this, a trace of mockery flashed across her eyes. She had invited all the researchers on the list who could be invited. Who did Bei Yunj think she was that everyone had to give her face? After the meeting ended, Bei Yunj looked at the time of the exhibition and took a photo of the list. She opened the group chat. Loving family Rose? Picture. Does anyone know them? Soon someone replied in the group. Si Qingyan? Zhong Xinglin? Zhou Moping, there are 3 of them. Are they my students? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and continued to reply. There's an exhibition the day after tomorrow. We need to gather some people. Zhou Moping, that's easy. I'll ask my students to come with me. Zhong Xinglin, Si Qingyan, you go too. Si Qingyan? Yu Guang, exhibition? I'm free too. Bai Mingzhang, I'm going too. Until the next day. Bei Yunj walked up to Ding Kuixing and thought for a moment. If I can't invite the people on the list, how about we change the group? This was not the initial list. After Ding Kuixing sorted out the people who would never come, Bei Yunj did not recognize any of them. All right. You can swap out whoever you want. Ding Kuixing was so busy that he did not care who Bei Yunj found. He only patted Bei Yunj's shoulder. Good luck. Bei Yunj. When the people around heard this, they were even more excited. If Bei Yunj could not find anyone to participate, she might as well say so. Otherwise, wouldn't it be embarrassing if she compared herself to the researchers invited by Chu Anlin? Chu Anlin could not hide the joy on her face. When she thought about how she could suppress Bei Yunj tomorrow, the corners of her lips could not help but curl up. At the exhibition. End of this chapter. Chapter 921. Bei Yunj looked at the invitation and realized that the address of the exhibition was Delaney's Multipurpose Exhibition Hall. At the venue, Bei Yunj stood at the door and waited. Delaney's Multipurpose Exhibition Hall required swiping a card to enter. However, seeing that there was no one around, Bei Yunj took out the card that the higher-ups of Delaney had given her last time and tried the card machine. Unsurprisingly, the door of the exhibition hall opened. Bei Yunj put the card back into her pocket and walked in. But half an hour later, after Bei Yunj finished shopping, she bumped into Ding Kuixing, who was rushing over. Ding Kuixing's eyelids twitched. How did you get in? He had been squatting at the door for more than 20 minutes, but the security guard refused to let him in. He was only allowed to pass after verifying it. Bei Yunj said. The machine seems to be broken. Which one? Bei Yunj turned around and did not even bother to brush him off. I forgot. The corner of Ding Kuixing's mouth twitched. Okay, I'll check the temporary record card. Don't forget to get the card later. Without a temporary record card, you can't enter and leave the exhibition here at will. As it was a high-end exhibition hall, the temporary record card here was authenticated with real names, so it was convenient to participate in the auction of exhibition projects. There was still half an hour before the exhibition started, but many people had already arrived. Chu Anlin glanced at Bei Yunj, who brushed past her and sneered. She quickly went up to receive Luo Yunxing. She smiled and greeted him. Uncle Luo, it's been a long time. There was a familiar face beside Luo Yunxing, which made Chu Anlin unable to suppress her excitement. Is that Mr. Marcus? Marcus glanced at Chu Anlin with his blue eyes. Seeing that there was no one around, he quickly left after saying a few words. Luo Yunxing, I'll go out and take a look first. Luo Yunxing nodded respectfully. Okay, director. Chu Anlin could not help but be disappointed. Is Mr. Marcus leaving? No, I'm meeting a friend. Luo Yunxing's tone was cold. But Chu Anlin didn't care at all. She followed Luo Yunxing as if she was very familiar with him. She smiled. Is Mr. Marcus also interested in this exhibition? It's all right. Luo Yunxing's tone was perfunctory as he scanned the surroundings, as if he was looking for someone. Chu Anlin continued to ask, Uncle Luo, are you? If you don't have anything else to do, why don't you show the others around? Luo Yunxing was indeed a little impatient. He suppressed his temper and discussed with Chu Anlin. After that, Luo Yunxing left without looking back. However, Chu Anlin stood there with a stiff face. She only came back to her senses when she heard her companion calling her. Anlin, was that Luo Yunxing? Oh my god, Anlin, you're too lucky to be acquainted with such a big shot. After the girl calmed down, she thought of the atmosphere between Chu Anlin and Su Li just now. Did you guys quarrel? Chu Enlan immediately put on a smile and said calmly, "No, Uncle Luo doesn't like crowds. Maybe it's too noisy." "So that's the case." The girl nodded and smiled gloatingly. "Enlan, let me tell you. Bei Yunch doesn't seem to have invited anyone on the list. She's secretly sitting in the corridor." Chu Enlan felt a little better. "Is that so?" She smiled. "After all, she's not from this circle. It's indeed difficult for her to blend in. P.S. We'll continue tomorrow morning. Be good and remember the monthly votes." End of this chapter. Chapter 922. On the other side. Pei Yunj was indeed playing with her phone in the corridor. The few people she had invited had not arrived after a long time. "So, Anlin, what did you say? Marcus is here too?" Luo Yunxing raised his voice in disbelief. On the other hand, Bei Yunj, who was playing with her phone, paused and looked up instinctively. Chu Anlin smiled and said, Uncle Luo is from our nation's computing institute after all. I didn't expect them to give him so much face." These words were indirectly saying that Luo Yunxing and Marcus were here because of her. Ding Kuixing did not think too much about it and only sighed. "Student Chu is really amazing. I don't think even I have such connections." "Professor Ding, you're joking." After Chu Anlin finished laughing, she seemed to have just seen Bei Yunj. "Student Pei? Don't you need to pick up the guests you invited? They haven't arrived." Bei Yunj glanced at them and said concisely without any intention of saying anything else. However, Chu Anlin persisted and asked, "They haven't arrived? Is Student Pei sure that they will come?" With that said, even Ding Kuixing frowned and tried to smooth things over with a smile. "Yunj, Professor C will be here later. Remember to go and receive him." Bei Yunj looked at him. Meh. Ding Kuixing was speechless. It was his first time seeing a student act so disdainful of Si Qingyan. After all, he was the youngest professor in Yun University and had even been trending because of his looks. Just as Ding Kuixing took a deep breath, Chu Anlin suddenly smiled. "Professor Ding, there's no need for Student Pei to receive Professor C." Chu Anlin looked at the few people not far away and pretended to be very familiar with Luo Yunxing and the rest. She turned around and smiled politely. "Professor C is chatting with Uncle Luo and the rest. Uncle Luo doesn't like to be disturbed by strangers. I'll go and ask if they need anything." Ding Kuixing hesitated for a moment. Okay. After all, he was indeed not familiar with the scholars in our nation's academic circle. At this moment, Chu Anlin glanced at Bei Yunj and the corners of her lips curled up in satisfaction. In this round, it was obvious that Bei Yunj was the one who was crushed. Thinking of this, Chu Enlan walked over briskly. "Uncle Luo, Professor C." Chu Enlan's voice was soft. "Mr. Marcus, do you need any help?" Luo Yunxing was interrupted and frowned subconsciously. He did not expect Chu Anlin to come again. "No need." Luo Yunxing's tone was cold. This made Chu Enlan's joy seem to have been extinguished by a basin of cold water. Coincidentally, Si Qingyan had just sent a message to Bei Yunj. Seeing the awkward situation, he smiled and said, "We're waiting for someone. We really don't need your help. Thank you." Chu Enlan also blushed slightly because of Si Qingyan's gentlemanly demeanor and nodded. But in the next moment, before Chu Enlan left, she saw Bei Yunj walking towards her. Chu Enlan saw this and immediately said, "Student Pei, didn't I tell you that Uncle Luo and Professor C don't like to be disturbed?" Before he could finish his sentence, the person who had been silent all this while spoke up excitedly, You're really here?" Instantly. This caused the people who were secretly observing Marcus to lose their ability to speak. The atmosphere was extremely cold. In Country A, Marcus only had a good relationship with Zhong Xinglin and a few others. But what was going on now? Chu Enlan's entire body froze. She looked at this unbelievable scene with an ugly expression. End of this chapter. Chapter 923. Bei Yunj put her phone back into her pocket and brushed past Chu Anlin. Chu Anlin froze on the spot and heard Bei Yunj greet Marcus familiarly. "It's been a long time." Marcus complained unhappily, "You're still talking about it? The last time you went to Neely, Zhong Xinglin didn't even want to tell me. If I want to see you, I have to come to Yunqing." At this moment, not to mention the students of Yun University's experimental class who had never seen such a scene before, even Ding Kuixing felt like he was dreaming. This volunteer's connections were truly terrifying. How did she even know Marcus? Besides, this was not just a simple acquaintance. She could actually make the big boss come to Yunqing to look for her. What a godly treatment. But speaking of which, why are you here? Marcus was curious. Bei Yunj was speechless. Beside him, Si Qingyan was trying his best to suppress his laughter. Marcus, let's ask about this later. After Si Qingyan reminded him kindly, Marcus did not ask further. At this moment, the students in Yun University's laboratory felt like they were in a dream. The person who was talking to Bei Yunj just now was Marcus? Some people still could not believe it. How did Bei Yunj know such a top researcher? Marcus and Chu Anlin's father, Chu Yeming, were not on the same level. No matter which country they were in, who didn't know Marcus from our nation who studied computing? But at this moment, Marcus and Bei Yunj looked very familiar. And this familiarity was something that Marcus took the initiative to do. As a result, Luo Yunxing and Si Qingyan, who were beside him, felt like they couldn't interrupt even if they wanted to. If there's nothing else, you guys can shop by yourselves first. I'm going to pick someone up. Bei Yunj saw that someone had sent her a message and said to Marcus and the rest. This made Ding Kueisheng's eyelid twitch. He wondered if Bei Yunj was stupid. The top researcher was standing in front of her. She was still planning to leave the big boss alone and go outside to pick up someone? Ding Kueisheng immediately went forward. Yunj, where is the person you want to fetch now? I'll go and fetch him. Now, Ding Kueisheng was afraid that Marcus would be provoked by Bei Yunj and leave in anger. Bei Yunj hesitated for a moment and looked at Ding Kueisheng. She nodded. They're outside. There should be 8 or 9 of them. Alright, I'll go pick it up now. After Ding Kueisheng finished speaking, he immediately left in a relaxed and unguarded manner. However, he never imagined what kind of hell he would be facing next, at this very moment. Chu Enlan felt cold all over. Looking at Bei Yunj, Marcus, and the others walking together, her complexion turned extremely ugly. Why didn't Bei Yunj say earlier that she knew Marcus? She wanted to see her embarrass herself on purpose. Chu Enlan gritted her teeth. She was not willing to lose just like that. Enlan, are you all right? The girl next to her saw that Chu Enlan was not in a good state and asked carefully. Marcus and the Delaney group have always been working together. After all, the Delaney group is sponsoring this exhibition. Although Chu Enlan said this, the students present were very silent. A big boss like Marcus did not lack any bosses. Until the next moment. There was a commotion in the crowd. Everyone looked up and saw a few familiar faces. Elder Zhong, look. It's really Elder Zhong. Is that Mr. Bai Mingzhang beside him? End of chapter. Chapter 924. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. The scene continued. Master Pei's family and friends other than Zhong Xinglin, there was also the former principal of Yun University, Bai Mingzhang, the director of the Academy of Engineering, Zhou Moping, the former director of the First Research Institute of the Ministry of National Defense, Yu Guang, and the others. Everyone's hearts almost stopped beating when they saw the gathering of the big shots of scientific research that hadn't been seen in years. What kind of auspicious day was it today that all the big shots were out shopping? They were all immortals in the scientific research world. Chu Anlin felt a chill run down her spine when she saw this scene. She had a bad feeling. Ding, where's my gur? Bai Mingzhang asked kindly. Zhong Xinglin was especially disdainful. Don't try to claim connections. Lan Jun hasn't even acknowledged you, and you're already treating yourself as Ge'er's biological grandfather? The volume of his voice was neither too loud nor too soft, just enough for some of the people present to hear him clearly. Mr. Bai Mingzhang wanted to be Bei Yunj's grandfather? The students of Yun University's laboratory were naturally the most familiar with Bai Mingzhang. He was the former principal of Yun University. In fact, Bai Mingzhang was their principal when they were still undergraduates. At this moment, Ding Kueisheng was under the most pressure. He had a stiff smile on his face and his legs were weak. From the start, he had never thought that Bei Yunj would know anyone at her age. Therefore, he never expected that when he walked to the door, he would see Zhong Xinglin and a few other scientific researchers waiting for him at the door. This ancestor had invited Zhong Xinglin and the others over without saying a word. What was the meaning of this? Do you all want some tea? Ding Kueisheng was very regretful. If he had known that Zhong Xinglin and Bai Mingzhang would be coming, he would have prepared the best Longjing tea this time. No need. Bai Mingzhang smiled and refused. When he saw Bei Yunj not far away, his eyes lit up. Gur. Bei Yunj looked up and saw Ding Kueisheng coming back with the others. I told you that I would pick you up, but you refused. Don't tell me that you rode a bike here on such a cold day. Bei Yunj walked over and spoke in a cold tone. Only the corners of her eyes seemed to be curved, making her look unbelievably beautiful. The function hall was located in a remote area. If they had waited for the bus, Zhong Xinglin and the others would not have arrived so quickly. The surrounding people felt their scalps go numb. This was the first time they saw someone daring to lecture Zhong Xinglin and the others like this. After all, they were the earliest batch of veterans who had contributed most of their energy to the country. "You'll feel warm after some exercise," Zhong Xinglin said immediately and even rubbed his hands together symbolically. Bai Mingzhang nodded. That's right, that's right. The older generation was not only used to living frugally, but they also remembered the hardships of the war. This included Lin Lanjun. She had received tens of millions of dollars in prize money, but she had donated all of it to Project Hope to find lost children. Bai Yunj glanced at them, nodded, and chuckled. That's good. You can ride a bike happily now and you can stay in the hospital neatly in the future. Zhong Xinglin, Bai Mingzhang, Yu Guang and Zhou Moping. Old Zhong was right. His daughter was indeed very fierce. Zhong Xinglin knew that he was in the wrong. He could only turn to look at Marcus and question fiercely, "Marcus, who allowed you to wander around our Yuncheng for no reason?" Marcus, not long after. After Zhong Xinglin and the others went to their seats, Ding Kuixing pulled Bai Yunj back. "You told me to change a batch of people. Did you mean this batch?" Ding Kuixing took a deep breath and asked with a fake smile. End of chapter. Chapter 925. Bai Yunj looked at him, not understanding what he meant. Ding Kuixing was speechless. It seemed like this person really pulled Zhong Xinglin and the rest to make up the numbers. "I don't know anyone else either." "You can't be picky," Bai Yunj said slowly. Ding Kuixing was speechless. Hearing this person speak, he really felt like breaking down. Fortunately, the exhibition was about to start. Ding Kuixing stood on the stage as if he had just woken up from a dream. However, when he saw the people in the first row, his legs still turned weak. What kind of monster was Bai Yunj? She pulled a row of top researchers to support her. On the stage, Ding Kuixing introduced with a stiff expression. The others were not any better. They had heard that she would be participating in the exhibition. Although they knew that the possibility was very small, they still wanted to try their luck. However, they did not expect to meet people like Zhong Xinglin and Bai Mingzhang. Those in the industry who did not attend today were probably regretting it. At the same time, Chu Anlin's expression was extremely ugly. She could not figure out who Bai Yunj was. "Anlin, let's look at the exhibition first." The female classmate beside her paused and added, "I saw the unit on her application board just now. It's the first research institute of the Ministry of National Defense." Chu Anlin's face paled. "What did you say?" "In Country A, the first research institute of the Ministry of National Defense was even more difficult to enter than the Academy of Science." The female classmate fell silent. Chu Anlin clenched her fists and stared at Bai Yunj gloomily. She laughed coldly. "Song Yao has really improved. It seems like she's going against me to the end." "Anlin, who doesn't know that Elder Zhong and the rest don't vote for projects easily? No matter how many Bai Yunj brings, they are all fake." After the female classmate comforted her, Chu Anlin's expression improved. She was right. Even if Elder Zhong and the rest came, Bai Yunj still did not have much practical help to this exhibition. Chu Anlin watched as the S-grade projects were introduced one by one. There was indeed no movement in the first row. Only a few of the people she invited voted for 2 or 3 projects. As for the incomplete projects, students, and prepared projects, these big shots were even less likely to take a fancy to them. Thinking of this, Chu Anlan pursed her lips and her eyes were cold. But then, a boy with a clean temperament suddenly appeared on the stage. He clenched his fists nervously and walked onto the stage with his introduction book. In fact, almost no one cared about the later projects and no one would follow and choose. However, the male student continued his speech seriously. The topic of the speech was a hearing aid. It could help people with hearing loss integrate into society more easily. For example, they could take up jobs like driving. After all, according to the relevant regulations, many cities had banned honking. After the project was pushed forward, they could sign a contract with some taxi companies to provide work opportunities for deaf drivers. After the introduction of the project, everyone present knew that it was very difficult to put such a project into practice. There were not many people who could afford to lead this project. Ladies and gentlemen who are interested in this project, please vote. After the host finished speaking, a brief introduction of the project appeared on the screen. Below was a blank list of candidates. Everyone lost interest and waited for the introduction to be over to see if they had a chance to sit in the first row. But the next moment, the mechanical voice sounded as the image on the big screen changed. Thank you to the first candidate for this project. End of this chapter. Chapter 926. A clear line of words appeared on the screen. Project candidate, candidate 1Y, G. Everyone held their breaths. Why what? Why G? Why G is really coming to the exhibition. Chapter 926. Afraid of YG's revenge, the mysterious person appears. Please wait a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 927. The mysterious man said, I just want a way to get close to her. You know, Country A is very protective of her. Then I'll tell you officially. She's my disciple. No one can have any ideas about her. Nancy said lightly, but there was a cold warning in his eyes. The mysterious man was stunned. He knew how strict Nancy's standards were. If he liked her, then it seemed that she was not a genius packaged by Country A as they thought. Teacher, I want to invite her to Continent K for the assessment. As soon as the mysterious man finished speaking, Nancy refused. Impossible. The mysterious man pursed his lips. Teacher, if she comes, I'll make sure she's safe. Do you think I'll still believe you? Nancy sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, the mysterious man was silent for a long time and said, Teacher, you know in your heart how different the scientific research level here is from that of Continent K. You've also worked your way up in Continent K, so you know how hard it is to achieve success. Nancy was unmoved. He just drank some coffee. At this moment, the mysterious man moved his lips. Okay. Then he sent a document to Nancy. What are you doing? Nancy frowned. Let her have a try for this test. Very few people can get 60 points. The mysterious man said lightly. Are you trying to trick me? Nancy narrowed his eyes. The mysterious man couldn't help but laugh. The passing score in Continent K is different from the passing score here. Teacher, don't you know best? Teacher, Country A protects her very well, but if she has the support of the 191st laboratory, then no one can touch her. Nancy was silent for a long time before he passed the document to Bei Yunj. 2 hours later, the mysterious man asked, Have you finished filling it out? Nancy hesitated. She doesn't seem to have woken up yet. The mysterious man said. Did she do her research too late yesterday? Nancy said, She hasn't done any research during this period. She was volunteering. The mysterious man was speechless. He suddenly felt that this genius was not so reliable. Could she really be a packaging genius from Country A? Just as the mysterious man was thinking, Nancy suddenly said, She accepted the document. The mysterious man nodded. About 20 minutes later, Nancy saw that Bei Yunj had finished filling out the form and sent him a copy. He hesitated for a moment. Now, 191 was so easy? While thinking, Nancy sent the question to the mysterious man. The mysterious man was stunned. She's done? It had only been 20 minutes? I think so. Nancy asked, Is your mission very simple this time? The mysterious man's eyelids twitched. In order to test his level, he took a test that was more difficult. No one had ever scored more than 70 points on this test. Thinking of this, the mysterious man didn't believe it and started to check. But the more he answered the question, the more he doubted his life. Did he really spend 20 minutes on this? Last time, the students who passed the assessment took 2 hours. After checking, the mysterious man's body stiffened. Nancy asked subconsciously, How is it? You passed? The mysterious man's expression cracked in an instant. He turned around with a stiff and expressionless face. Full marks. This time he had really dug out an incredible character for him. This was the first time he had met someone who scored full marks on a test. He had probably never met someone who scored full marks since the establishment of the laboratory. Chapter 928. Is Lab 191 standard so bad? Nancy blurted out subconsciously. But not long after, Nancy realized what kind of monster her girl was. It was not surprising that she got full marks. The mysterious man was speechless. For the first time, someone questioned the standard of Lab 191. But he could not refute the test paper with full marks in hand. The mysterious man took a deep breath. Teacher, are you sure she hasn't done this question? What do you mean? Nancy was unhappy. She suspected that he cheated? Teacher, I didn't mean that. The mysterious man smiled bitterly. Nancy was indignant, but he still asked Bei Yunj if she had done this kind of question. Not long after, Bei Yunj replied with a voice message. After Nancy clicked on it, Bei Yunj's soft laughter sounded first, then her lazy voice entered their ears. Teacher, your way of humiliating people now is quite special. Nancy was speechless. The mysterious man was speechless. Listening to the voice, he could feel the master's unruliness. It was also the first time the mysterious man knew that someone would think that doing the test paper of Lab 191 was a kind of humiliation. Well, my disciple doesn't mean any harm. Nancy coughed. She hasn't done a simple question for a long time. The mysterious man was speechless. This pair of teacher and disciple did it on purpose, right? He took a deep breath and said, Teacher, you know that with her talent, Continent K can give her more. Please consider it. The mysterious man paused. Although what happened to your wife was an accident, we're all very sorry. You don't want your wife to. Don't mention my lover again. Nancy's attitude suddenly became cold. My lover can't afford to be sheltered by Lab 191, and neither can my disciple. After that, Nancy suddenly got up and left. The mysterious man also knew that today's negotiation had failed. He pursed his lips, thought for a long time, and logged on to CI7's network again. Bei Yunj had just come out of the shower and was sitting lazily on the sofa when she saw a message pop up on her cell phone. It was a list sent to her by Xian Yuan. What the buyer wanted was all the information of the Computing Institute's members. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and sent Xian Yuan a question mark. Xian Yuan, difficult. Max. Don't answer it. After sending it out, Bei Yunj sat in front of the computer and sorted out all the information she had. Xian Yuan thought that Bei Yunj wouldn't be able to find out, so he threw this tricky task to a few senior members. But he didn't expect that. He was just looking for information on a scientific researcher, but all of them accepted the order and then refunded it. This was the first time that the senior members of CI7 had collectively backed out. Continent K, are you sure it's full marks? The middle-aged man suddenly stood up, agitated. The mysterious man who had been talking to Nancy a few days ago was now standing in front of the middle-aged man. Yes. I knew it, why would Nancy stay at the Computing Institute? The middle-aged man said, No, we must find her. The mysterious man paused. I don't know if it's because the security measures in country A are too strict, but I can't find any information. It was as if it had been purposely erased. It was so blank that it could not be any more blank. Really? I've already contacted CI7, but there's still no clue at all. As soon as the mysterious man finished speaking, the middle-aged man sucked in a breath of cold air. Then this is difficult. If CI7 couldn't find anything, then there was nothing he could do. It seemed that he could only make a breakthrough on Nancy. P.S. Good night. Thank you for your efforts this month. Master Pei is #1 on the monthly votes list. This month, Master Pei still needs monthly votes. Are there any children who want to vote for him? End of chapter. Chapter 929. Go and book me a ticket to Yunqing. The middle-aged man looked at the scene at the door and narrowed his eyes. The mysterious man was stunned. Teacher, you, a few seconds later. He replied, got it. Over the past few days, Bei Yunj had been promoting the hearing aid project. She left early and returned late. She would only speak to Hua Shidu at the dining table. At the Computing Institute. Bei Yunj looked at Du Zhao's persistent call and finally picked it up. What's wrong? Bei Yunj took off her goggles. Her bright eyes were cold, but not long after, she returned to her casual appearance. It's about the governor questioning your results. Du Zhao said. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. I don't have time to go to Neely. Du Zhao had always hoped that she would go to Neely to attend the International Musicians Association's banquet and slap the faces of those who said that she cheated. No, it's someone from the International Music Alliance. Du Zhao immediately explained, the people from the International Music Alliance have interfered in this matter. He has already gone to Yunqing. Do you want to find time to meet him? Du Zhao had no choice in this matter. The International Musicians Association and the International Music Alliance had always suppressed each other. Moreover, the International Music Alliance had become famous in Continent K in recent years. The person who had been sent to Yunqing was also someone whom the International Music Alliance valued greatly. Bei Yunj glanced at the research work at hand and thought for a while. Sure. Du Xiao heaved a sigh of relief and gave her a contact number. After Bei Yunj finished the task at hand, she slowly prepared to go to the airport to look for him. What was even more unexpected was that this search would lead to something completely unexpected. At the airport in the afternoon, the security guards had no choice but to come out to control the situation. However, they couldn't get the person sitting in the waiting area to leave. The assistant was so anxious that she was sweating. She looked at the young man in sunglasses. "Brother Su, does the other party know that you're Song Su?" Anyone who knew Song Su's name should have come to pick him up 10 minutes in advance. Song Su paused and smiled. "You know, don't you?" Seeing that Song Su didn't care, the assistant became even more anxious. "This person won't be late, right? There are only 3 minutes left until the appointed time." Hearing this, Song Su quickly picked up his hat and looked at the people around him carefully. Finally, his gaze fixed on a girl who was frowning. She was so beautiful that no one had ever seen such stunning looks in the entertainment industry. His heart skipped a beat, and he called the other party according to the contact information given by Du Xiao. As expected, a girl outside the crowd picked it up and said in a clear voice, "Song Su, right? Where are you?" Bei Yunj glanced around and didn't see any men in their 20s. Song Su curled his lips in amusement. He didn't expect that Bei Yunj really didn't know him. "Can you turn around and take a look?" After saying this, Bei Yunj turned around and saw a young and handsome man walking out of the crowd. "Hello, I'm Song Su." Song Su walked over to Bei Yunj's side. She frowned and was about to say something. Suddenly, Song Su grabbed Bei Yunj's wrist and ran out. When the female fans behind saw this scene, they couldn't stop screaming. There were also people who ran after them. But at this time, even Song Su's assistant didn't have time to react. A few minutes later, he realized that he had also been dumped by Song Su. But the reporters who had been following them had already captured the scene of Song Su and the unfamiliar young girl. Very soon. #Song Su returns ## Song Su's girlfriend at the airport #. These words had already hit the headlines. On the bridge across the river, Song Su leaned against the railing and looked at the girl beside him who didn't say a word to him. His eyes were full of interest. Bei Yunj? Just now at the airport, he had only grabbed Bei Yunj's wrist in a moment of desperation. But the next moment he had been dumped by this girl. This was also the first time Song Su was so disliked by the girls. Bei Yunj looked up. "How do you want to test my skills?" Song Su smiled. His eyebrows were gentle and good-looking, but his eyes were very dark. He lazily propped up his cheek. "It's the first time we meet. Shouldn't we have a good chat? Coincidentally, I'm hungry too." Hearing this, Bei Yunj finally looked at him properly. After a while, she laughed softly. She asked slowly, "Why? Do you think I'm here to pick you up for dinner?" In the afternoon, at the whole corporation, in the spacious office, a reminder bell rang. After reading the document in his hand, Huashidu glanced at the note before picking up his phone. "What's wrong?" Qin Yu heaved a sigh of relief when Huashidu finally picked up the call. However, in the next moment he pursed his lips. "Master Du, tell me the truth. Is Gur in a relationship?" The pen in the man's hand stopped and the ink stained a spot. "In a relationship?" Huashidu asked carelessly, his cold fingers caressing the pen in his hand. "She and Song Su are trending." Qin Yu took a deep breath and chuckled. "I've never received such treatment even when Gur picked Song Su up at the airport." Huashidu asked, "Song Su?" Qin Yu was speechless. There was actually someone who didn't know Song Su these days. It's that Song Su who entered the Music Alliance and founded the largest entertainment company in our nation. After Qin Yu finished speaking, he was still frustrated. He could not help but be angry. "I really don't understand. Why would Gur like that kind of person? Other than looking all right and having some ability, how is Song Su worthy of Gur?" With that said, the man's pale-colored eyes darkened. Qin Yu continued to ask, "Master Du, what should I do? I don't want Gur to fall in love so soon." Within moments, the man said slowly, "Qin Yu, you're Yunyun's biological brother." These words made Qin Yu perk up instantly. Huashidu said slowly, "You have to remind her appropriately to prevent her from being deceived." Qin Yu agreed very much. "Master Du, you also think that Song Su is not a good person, right?" At the same time, Huashidu clicked on the recent headlines. It was not difficult to find Song Su's entry. Then, he saw a video. From a further angle he saw Song Su on the phone with someone and then the two of them met. Although the pixels were a little blurry, Huashidu recognized that the person Song Su was holding and taking away was Bei Yunj. The emotions in the man's eyes were unclear. However, when he glanced at Bei Yunji's wrist, his eyes had already turned dark. His tone was light, but it was also slightly cold. He doesn't seem like a good person. At night, when Bei Yunji returned home, she saw the man sitting on the sofa. He seemed to be the same as usual, but Bei Yunji had a subtle premonition. "Brother." Bei Yunji called out naturally and was about to go upstairs. Suddenly she was stopped by the man. "Yunyan." Bei Yunji turned around and sized up Huashidu's expression carefully. "What's wrong?" End of chapter. Chapter 930. Have you been busy recently? The man asked casually. Bei Yunji thought for a moment and nodded. A little. This made the emotions in the man's eyes unreadable. He recalled that the young lady had been leaving early and returning late recently. After a while, just as Bei Yunji was wondering if Huashidu was in a bad mood, he turned around and slowly extinguished his cigarette. Rest for a while before going downstairs to eat. Although the man said that, Bei Yunji still looked at him again. She felt that something was wrong. However, Bei Yunji could not figure out what was going on. There was a moment of silence. Huashidu heard the young lady suddenly say, "Brother, I don't know how to solve a math problem." This made Huashidu smile unconsciously. His light-colored eyes stared straight at Bei Yunji, who immediately went upstairs to look for her exercise book. After a while, the man chuckled softly in the living room. It was deep and hoarse, tickling one's ears. The next day, big things happened in Yunqing one after another. At the Computing Institute, Bei Yunji had just taken off her rubber gloves when she saw Qin Luyan's assistant calling her. It seemed that he was very anxious about something, so he called again after hanging up. Soon Bei Yunji picked up. "What's wrong?" Bei Yunji was still tidying the table slowly, thinking that the assistant was rushing her back to the old residence. However, unexpectedly, she heard the assistant say anxiously, "Eldest miss, when can you come to the corporation?" Something happened to the corporation. Something happened? Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows. The assistant said, "Someone in the corporation has betrayed us and moved away our most important project fee. Currently, the higher-ups are forcing Boss Qin to hand over his shares." Bei Yunji stopped. "Can't we just make up for the fees?" The assistant was used to Bei Yunji not calling Qin Luyan brother. He only said, "Logically speaking, Boss Qin has the ability to make up for the whole. But Boss Qin really doesn't have any money?" This was unbelievable. The CEO of a corporation did not have much money on him. The assistant could not help but blame himself. "When something happened to second young master last night, I should have known that everything was premeditated." Something happened to him too? Bei Yunji's eyes darkened. She knew that this matter was not simple. If one of the Qin family members got into trouble, it might be an accident. However, the two of them had met with mishaps one after another. This proved that someone wanted to get rid of the Qin family. Yes, second young master's MV has been exposed for infringement and theft. Now many people are defaming second young master. The assistant wanted to say something else, but Bei Yunji interrupted her. "Got it. I'll hang up first." The assistant was stunned by Bei Yunji's cold attitude. Then her eyes filled with anger. Second young master and Chairman Qin were so nice to Mississippi. Why didn't Miss care about them at all? Wasn't he her biological brother? The assistant's heart was stifled, but when he turned around he saw Qin Luyan standing behind him. He didn't know when it had appeared. "Why did you tell her?" Qin Luyan's tone was indifferent, but it was not difficult to hear the coldness in it. The assistant didn't dare to look at Qin Luyan. He gritted his teeth. "Miss doesn't intend to care about you at all. Chairman Qin, Miss has never treated you as her biological brothers." As the assistant spoke, he looked up and met the man's cold gaze. Not long after, Qin Luyan only loosely tugged at his tie. His cold voice was magnetic and indifferent, with an imperceptible self-deprecation. "Isn't that good?" In this life, no matter what, he could not let Guru be implicated. End of chapter. Chapter 931. If she knows how to protect herself, she won't suffer too much in the future. Qin Luyan seemed to be muttering to himself. Then, just as the assistant was about to speak, he was suddenly interrupted by Qin Luyan. "Prepare the materials. There's a meeting later." The assistant refused to give up. "President Qin, are you really not going to let Miss Qin Yojiao come back?" Before he could finish asking, the assistant was shocked by Qin Luyan's fierce gaze. At this moment, Bei Yunji found Qin Luyan's savings in his private account. For the CEO of a listed company with a market value of hundreds of millions, it was indeed strange that his account did not even have 100 million yuan. Then, just as Bei Yunj was checking Qin Luyan's transfer records, she found a bank card number that Qin Luyan had transferred a large amount of money to. Bei Yunj could tell at a glance that the owner of this bank card was actually her. Bei Yunj frowned instinctively. Because there were too many people who transferred money overseas, Bei Yunj did not care how much assets she had under her name. Therefore she did not expect Qin Luyan to have so much money in this card. Suddenly, Zhong Xinglin knocked on the door of the research room. Do you have anything else? I want to talk to you about the project. Hearing this, Bei Yunj looked away and said calmly, "It's fine. Let's continue." At the Qin Corporation, almost everyone was in a panic. In the VIP room on the third floor sat a beautiful foreign woman. She was wearing a purple satin dress, looking elegant and charming. "Is he still unwilling to see me?" Elena's red lips curled up as she took a sip of the teacup with her black lace-gloved hand and asked with a smile. This time, it was obvious that Elena had come prepared. Qin Luyan, who was on the 16th floor, also knew that this matter must have something to do with this woman. "Miss Elena, I'm afraid President Qin is still unwilling to give in." The higher-ups of the Qin family smiled obsequiously. It was obvious that they had already started to take sides. Elena was the heir of the Angel family. This was not something a small Qin family could compare to. "I thought he would learn to be obedient after so long." Elena's tone was natural as she glanced at Qin Luyan's assistant beside her. "Go and tell Qin Luyan that I don't have that much time to wait any longer." She smiled charmingly. "I like him so much, so of course I don't want to hurt him. As long as he comes to me, I will definitely help him get through this difficult time." After that, Elena kissed the black rose she brought and placed it on the table. There was also a hotel room card. When the surrounding people saw the black rose, they instantly knew who had been sending black roses to President Qin. Who would have thought that it would be Elena Angel? However, they also knew how much Qin Luyan hated the roses that were sent every day. Similarly, Elena's butler was also confused as to why Elena was so obsessed with Qin Luyan. Inside the car, Elena saw the butler's hesitant expression and smiled. "You still don't understand why I like Qin Luyan? Miss, your excellence can be matched with an even better man." Elena smiled and closed her eyes. "Butler, you're wrong. If not for my background, I wouldn't have been able to threaten him at all. A man like Qin Luyan will surpass me one day with his own abilities. Therefore, before that happens, I will do whatever it takes to get him." Elena opened her eyes slightly, full of mockery. "At the same time, I'll help Yojiao get rid of someone who should be eliminated. P.S. Continue reading. Sleep early and watch it tomorrow." Chapter 932. The butler did not speak, but he had a feeling that something would happen this time and could not feel at ease. At the same time, the internet was also filled with news about Qin Yu's MV. Someone posted a black thread online to prove that the roses in Qin Yu's MV were Juliet roses. In Neely, it was obvious that only the Backton Manor could take out dozens of Juliet roses. However, even the locals were not qualified to enter the Backton Manor, let alone know who the owner was. They reasonably suspected that the roses used in Qin Yu's MV had been stolen. This incident caught Qin Yu's fans off guard. How much was it worth to pay to subconsciously defame him? However, they later found out that according to our nation's currency, Juliet roses were worth 3 to 5 million yuan each. Although Qin Yu burned money filming MVs, he had never burned money like this. According to their country's currency, these were worth about 1 to 2 billion yuan. So, Qin Yu's family's anti-defamation efforts were getting weaker and weaker. In addition, with the Qin Corporation's incident, everyone seized this opportunity to add insult to injury. They accused Qin Luyan of using the people's money for the project, but in the end, the public funds disappeared. Wasn't this the behavior of a scammer? I was wondering how the Qin family took root in a wealthy family. There's nothing more disgusting than the Qin family. TSK, a family of rich scammers. I feel like vomiting just looking at them. Qin Yu, Qin Lang, Qin Yojiao. They're all from the Qin family. Soon, the fans who had always claimed that Qin Yojiao was the elder young miss of the Qin family started to kick the Qin family far away from them. Jiao Jiao doesn't know anything. Jiao Jiao is studying overseas. Passerby, let go of my Jiao Jiao. Didn't the Qin family say that my Jiao Jiao isn't a member of the Qin family? We have nothing to do with this kind of scammer either. Take my Jiao Jiao away. Doesn't their family only want someone with blood relations and look down on our talented young pianist? Let the real young lady be scolded. Goodbye. Give me back my phone. Yu Manran stomped his feet anxiously. I picked this flower. What does it have to do with Qin Yu? Aren't you afraid of death? How many fans does Qin Yu have? How many fans do you have? If it were you, you would have been killed by the anti-fans long ago. The manager disagree. Besides, best actor Qin won't feel any better if you go and get scolded. Someone's obviously someone who's messing with the Qin family. Then what should I do? You can't just pretend you don't know. Yu Manran suddenly thought of something. Gur, we can look for Gur about this. Next. No matter what his manager said, Yu Manran called Bei Yunj. What happened? Bei Yunj had just wrapped up the project. Yu Manran told Bei Yunj the whole story. I understand. Bei Yunj paused for a moment. Wait a little longer. Hearing Bei Yunj's words, Yu Manran completely relaxed. Qin family's old residence. What the hell is going on? Qin Luyin, are you stupid enough to use so much money to raise a woman? When old Master Qin saw the news, he almost couldn't breathe. Qin Luyin's voice was indifferent. Grandpa, you have your own private savings. When the time comes, just take Gur away. You. Old Master Qin really doted on Bei Yunj, but that didn't mean he didn't dote on his biological grandson. How much do you need for that project? Old Master Qin asked. Your private savings can't make up for this hole, Qin Luyin said slowly. Old Master Qin was speechless. End of chapter. Chapter 933. You're doing such a big business. How could you not be mentally prepared for this? Qin Luyin, have the words I usually taught you been eaten by dogs? The more old Master Qin scolded him, the harsher it became. Qin Luyin turned a blind eye to it. If it was in the past, Qin Luyin wouldn't have ignored it. But now, Qin Luyin's focus was on Bei Yunj. He would rather have something happen to the corporation than to have anything happen to Bei Yunj. As Yu and Lang's eldest brother, I've also prepared some money for them. After you go abroad, there won't be any accidents. Qin Luyin seemed to have known that this would happen. This stunned old Master Qin. Yin, tell me what's going on? Qin Luyin looked up and saw the old man's nervous expression. A strange look flashed across his eyes. He simply told him the gist of the matter. Old Master Qin fell into deep thought. He didn't expect so much to be involved. Yin, if this matter isn't resolved, grandfather is still here. Old Master Qin's words made Qin Luyin freeze. After experiencing his previous life, Qin Luyin was used to preparing for the worst and bearing it himself. Qin Luyin hid his expression. Grandfather, I've already invited someone over to talk. At this point, this matter isn't something that can be solved with a compensation. Who did you invite? Old Master Qin was stunned. Actually, in his previous life, Old Master Qin had left early. No one knew Old Master Qin's true identity. You'll know later. Not long after. A gorgeous woman arrived late. Xiao Qin, sorry to keep you waiting. Xia Luqing was also quite surprised that this man who was in the center of public opinion could still maintain his calm and natural appearance. Miss Xia, please take a seat. Qin Luyin went straight to the point. I heard that Miss Xia is an intermediate member in CI7? Xia Luqing smiled. Xiao Qin is very well informed. I'm looking for Miss Xia because I hope that Miss Xia can do me a favor. After Qin Luyin finished speaking, Xia Luqing interrupted him. I know why Xiao Qin is looking for me, but I can't help you with this. Xia Luqing gave him an official smile, a little distant. After all, I'm also very busy in CI7. In order to become a senior member this year, I spent a lot of time. Xia Luqing was CI7's Qing Lu. Some of the families in Cloud City knew about this. Because of Xia Luqing, the Xia family had a certain say in Yunqing. Miss Xia, you can state your conditions. As soon as Qin Luyin finished speaking, the strange light in Xia Luqing's eyes disappeared. I want 20% of the Qin Corporation's shares. After saying this, Qin Luyin and Old Master Qin looked up at her with the same coldness in their eyes. 20% of the Qin family's shares was not a small amount. They were taking advantage of the situation. Xia Luqing chuckled and said with a sense of superiority, actually, CI7 is hard to get. Without a referral, it's hard to register as a user, so it's not a bad deal. Xiao Qin, you know that as well. Sure. Qin Luyin spoke. This made Xia Luqing smile even more gloomily. Boss Qin, you're a straightforward person. Then the other condition will be easy to handle. Xia Luqing's tone did not allow for rejection. Her eyes were arrogant as she said indifferently, "Everyone knows that Bo Jinxiao is my cousin. But your daughter slapped my cousin's face in front of so many people in the past. Isn't she making things difficult for me?" She smiled. "I hope she can apologize to my cousin and not hurt the harmony between the two families." However, Xia Luqing did not notice that as soon as she finished speaking, a hint of mockery appeared in Qin Lian's eyes. P.S. There's still the monthly ticket increase. I'll continue to make up for it. End of chapter. Chapter 934. She still found it funny. I heard from little Qiao that she only returned to the Qin family when she was 17? No wonder she doesn't know the rules. Book God House. These words were also hinting that Bei Yunj was uncultured. Even though she had never seen this person before. Suddenly, before Qin Luyan could speak, a voice suddenly attracted everyone's attention. Bei Yunj caused trouble again? Mrs. Qin was holding a bag and wearing a plain-colored dress. She looked well taken care of, but her eyes were filled with disgust. It was as if she had finally found a chance to find trouble with Bei Yunj. Old Master Qin and Qin Luyan frowned, their eyes filled with coldness. Tong Yuang. Old Master Qin rarely called Mrs. Qin by her real name, and it was obvious that he was angry. However, Mrs. Qin was not afraid. "Dad, can't you tell? The moment she came back, she caused so much trouble for the Qin family. Back then when Zhao Zhao was around." "Shut up." Old Master Qin was instantly enraged. He suddenly laughed, scaring Mother Qin with his roar. When Mr. Qin heard this, he instinctively said, "Dad, that's not what Yuang meant," before he could finish speaking. No one expected Mr. Qin to be slapped by Old Master Qin. The crisp sound caused the atmosphere to freeze. Mr. Qin tilted his head back slightly, his expression stiff. Although Old Master Qin was strict with him, ever since he got married, Old Master Qin had never hit him. "Ah ting." Mrs. Qin was so scared that her voice trembled. Old Master Qin looked at Mr. Qin expressionlessly, his voice cold. "As a father, I didn't take good care of Gur back then. As a husband, I let my wife go crazy everywhere. Qin Ting, if I die, will Gur not be your daughter anymore?" Mr. Qin's body stiffened. He could only take a deep breath. "I wouldn't dare." Old Master Qin was strict with everyone. Even Qin Luyan had been punished by the family once. Only Bei Yunj, who came back at the age of 17, was Old Master Qin's beloved daughter. Seeing this scene, Xia Luqing's expression did not look too good. She had a feeling that Old Master Qin also wanted her to see this scene with her own eyes. "Miss Xia, although Gur is naughty and mischievous, she won't do anything too outrageous." Old Master Qin said coldly, "If you want an explanation, the Qin family can't give you one. Gur was the only daughter of the Qin family. As long as the men of the Qin family are alive, they can't let their wives and daughters be bullied." The old man's gaze was intimidating. As for Mother Qin, she didn't dare to say anything when she saw Old Master Qin hitting Father Qin. Only Xia Luqing's face was livid. She didn't notice the person walking in from outside. She smirked. "Is that so? Mr. Qin, CI7 also has an order for the Qin family. If that's the case, then we have nothing to talk about." As soon as Xia Luqing stood up, she saw Bei Yunj standing behind her. The girl was excessively beautiful. She had black hair, red lips, and a pair of seductive eyes that were bright and unruly. CI7? Bei Yunj took off her Bluetooth headset, ignored the Qin couple and placed the tea cake on the table. "What order can CI7 come up with?" Bei Yunj asked slowly. Xia Luqing reacted. This person should be Bei Yunj. She couldn't help but sneer. "Miss Pei, do you know what CI7 is? Are you looking down on CI7? Bei Yunj glanced at her indifferently and sneered. "Grandpa, I bought you tea cake. Try it and see what it's like." When Xia Luqing saw Bei Yunj's attitude, her face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Pen God Pavilion. Chapter 935. At this juncture, Bei Yunj was still in the mood to buy tea cakes to make the old master happy? It was really as Bo Jinxiao had said. She was arrogant and insufferably arrogant. Good. The Qin family has a lucky star like Miss Pei. It seems like nothing will happen to them. Xia Luqing's tone was full of sarcasm. Bei Yunj slowly opened the box and snorted lazily. "Do I need you to tell me that?" Xia Luqing looked up instinctively, but met Bei Yunj's casual glance. It was inexplicably scary. Xia Luqing was furious, as if she had not expected to be frightened by a high school student. She sneered, picked up her bag and left. Okay, then let's see how capable Miss Pei is to be so arrogant. After Xia Luqing left, she immediately sent a message to her acquaintance. She asked him to contact an old member of CI7 with some status to take on the Qin family's order. In the Qin family's old mansion. Why is the old master so angry? When Bei Yunj arrived at the door, she had actually heard Mr. Qin and Mrs. Qin's conversation and saw how protective old Master Qin was of her. Sometimes, Bei Yunj was indeed envious of the original owner for having such kinship. Perhaps it was because old Master Qin's personality was similar to Bei Yunj's grandfather, who had passed away early in her previous life, so she paid more attention to him. The old master glared at her. Don't interrupt my lecture. Okay, let's eat first. The moment Bei Yunj finished speaking, she picked another piece of tea cake and sent it to the old master's mouth. The old master took a big bite instinctively. When he regained his senses, his body froze. He glared at Bei Yunj and took another bite of the tea cake in his hand. He glanced at the Qin couple coldly. Know your place. Ayan is in charge of the family now. If you two don't know your place, leave the Qin family as soon as possible. These words made Mrs. Qin's expression turn ugly. She did not expect the old master to dote on Bei Yunj to this extent. Mr. Qin pursed his lips. Got it, Dad. Mrs. Qin helped Mr. Qin upstairs to treat his bruises. Bei Yunj said, I've returned the money to your account. Qin Luyan's eyes flickered. He did not expect Bei Yunj to know that he had transferred the money to her account. Old Master Qin was also a shrewd person. When he heard this, he immediately realized why Qin Luyan had no money in his account. Who would have thought that they would all be transferred to Ge? The old man was very surprised. After all, his eldest grandson had a weak sense of kinship since he was young. Even to her biological parents and the Qin Youjiao from back then, she was polite and distant. However, she did not expect Qin Luyan to treat Bei Yunj so well. The man's ink-black pupils melted the coldness, and under the thin lens, the gentleness in his eyes was reflected. His thin lips curved upwards. There's no need for that. This isn't the time to transfer the money. Big brother can handle this matter. The old master also replied, listen to your brother. Seeing that the two of them were determined not to let her handle it, Bei Yunj's eyes moved and she didn't say anything more. She sat on the sofa and happened to scroll through the latest headlines. Hashtag Yu Manrin's friend hashtag Yu Manrin's Juliet's rose hashtag. After Bei Yunj clicked on it, she saw that someone had taken a screenshot of Yu Manrin's selfie from before. The background was filled with roses from the MV. There was also Yu Manrin's reply to his fans. Manman's cutie duo. Man, the roses are so beautiful. The director is so attentive. Yu Manran V replied to Manman's cutie duo. My friend gave it to mean it's super beautiful. The marketing account that sent these screenshots was still maliciously scolding Yu Manran for lying. Whose friend could give Juliet roses? End of chapter. Chapter 936. The comments section was also filled with malicious replies. I'm vomiting. Does this sister really think that she's a superstar just because she's associated with Yun? Giving Juliet roses? What kind of friend is he? I want to get to know him too. He's probably a sugar daddy. You've embarrassed yourself overseas. Our nation is already reporting that the best actor of a nation stole the roses of Backton Manor in the MV. Don't you think it's embarrassing, Qin Yu Manran? Backton Manor is comparable to the Bayan Manor. How can the Our nation not be angry? Bei Yunj's eyes were filled with playfulness, but there was no warmth. After sending a message to Butler's son, she went to the second floor to get a spare computer. Clarification messages appeared on the foreign and domestic websites, stating that the roses in Qin Yu's MV were given by his owner. And the name of the account was Backton Butler. At first, everyone did not believe it. However, seeing that Butler's son had started a live stream, everyone could not help but click on it. The moment they entered, they saw Butler's son walking leisurely in Backton Manor with a selfie stick, introducing the interior of the building. The architectural style of Backton Manor was elegant and grand. Every corner was filled with art. It was built by the most famous architect of the last century. When Butler's son walked to the flower bed, everyone almost screamed. The 1 to 200 square meters of flower bed was covered by half a spherical glass. Inside was a large patch of Juliet roses. They even heard Butler's son sigh. The air here is very good. It has the fragrance of flowers. On the screen someone was already typing crazily. This is the F*King fragrance of flowers? It's the fragrance of money. Ah, is this the life of a rich person? Then they heard Butler's son sigh faintly. Originally, the Juliet roses in this area were very beautiful, but they were all cut off by Elder Miss and given to her friends. The camera turned and it was a patch of newly transplanted Juliet roses that had not bloomed yet. Someone asked in the livestream, "Mr. Butler, how much did this transplant cost?" When Butler's son saw it, he smiled lightly and said, "It's not a big expenditure. Excluding the price of Juliet itself, it's about 70 million yuan. After all, it was flown in from another country. It's easy to die on the way." These words had already shocked the people in the livestream into silence. A few minutes later. "So, Yu Manren's friend is really the owner of Backton Manor?" The butler smiled without hesitation. "Yes, that's the first friend that Miss brought home. When eldest Miss returned to China, she even cut a few Juliets and gave them away." Very soon. Someone in the livestream asked, "Yu Manren is the koi, right? F*ck, one was Yun and the other was the owner of Backton. Always receiving help from a benefactor? Why can't I meet a friend like Master Backton?" "Ah, Butler's son, do you think I still have any hope of becoming your colleague?" Butler's son smiled. "Of course. Our requirements for housekeepers and servants are to graduate from one of the top 200 schools in the world, be proficient in 5 languages, and have strong life skills and learning ability. If you have good culinary skills, I can lower the requirements." F*ck, who among the top 200 graduates would still want to be a servant or housekeeper? Next. They heard Butler's son say with a gentle smile, "In our nation's currency, the minimum annual salary is 7 figures. Instantly. The audience was almost speechless. The world of the rich was indeed dull and boring. In a certain entertainment company, the female artiste who was also watching the live stream was even angrier. She gritted her teeth. This be asterisk teeth. How does she know Master Backton? End of chapter. Chapter 937. Sister Meng Yu Corporation has issued a statement. The manager's face was pale as she spoke to the woman sitting on the sofa. What Yu Corporation? The woman asked irritably. Yu Corporation. As soon as she finished speaking, the woman's body stiffened and she immediately snatched the manager's phone to check. Yu Corporation. We are only issuing a statement on behalf of Mr. Yu Hanran. Recently, there has been false information about Mr. Yu Hanran's sister, Ms. Yu Manran. We will collect evidence and take legal action. Mr. Yu Hanran will sue the person who manipulated the public opinion behind the scenes. In an instant, the woman's legs went soft and her voice trembled. How could she be President Yu's sister? Didn't the industry say that Yu Manran was from the grassroots? Quick, delete those things. After the woman reacted, she immediately asked someone to delete them. But at this time, it was as if the backstage had been locked and could not be moved. The technician's face turned pale. How could this be? Sister Meng, this can't be deleted. The woman's eyes almost turned black and her heart sank. How could she not know that someone had done this on purpose? Bei Yunj found the source of the public opinion. It was a female artist who had done this. Because she had offended the director on set, her job had been changed to Yu Manran's at the last minute. Therefore, she had deliberately defamed Yu Manran. After all, she did not dare to challenge the director. She could only vent her anger on Yu Manran. But she did not expect to provoke Yu Hanran. Bei Yunj looked at the backstage that she had locked and knew that someone had deliberately pushed her from behind. She sneered. Her beautiful eyes were indifferent, but there was no warmth. It seemed that she still had to meet this person. Not long after, Bei Yunj sorted out the evidence and sent it directly to Yu Hanran. The onlookers online were completely shocked. Yu Manran was actually the sister of President Yu of Yu Corporation. Then why was she being trampled on by some B-list celebrities? After Yu Manran became famous, her identity became a point of contention. Some female celebrities with good family backgrounds often said that Yu Manran was poor and wore fake goods. But in the end, she was the eldest daughter of the Yu Corporation. F*ck, my man is actually the eldest daughter of the Yu family? This is great, this is great. You don't have to worry about Man being bullied in the future. No wonder he could enter Yuther residence and be friends with Bakerton. Sister Meng, are you there? Did she forget how she had criticized Man for being a country bumpkin? Wang Linmeng, question. President Yu is too handsome. You spoil our Man so much. Are men these days all so fond of their sisters? Next. A few hours later, the U Corporation sent out a lawyer's letter and a large amount of evidence, which directly sent Wang Linmeng to the hot search list. People in the industry began to avoid Wang Linmeng. Even the financier behind Wang Linmeng simply turned a blind eye and let the Yu family deal with it. After going downstairs, only then did Bei Yunj remember about CI7. She clicked into her personal platform and checked the recent orders. There was indeed a list about the Qin family. Bei Yunj took a bottle of ice water from the fridge and sent a message in the group chat. Max, who accepted this order? Picture. The group chat was immediately heated up. Shi Xiong, Big Boss is out? Shi Xiong, Big Boss, don't you look at the group chat? They had tagged her in the group chat for half a month, but she didn't send a single message. Peng Hu. No one in the group will accept this order. Chapter 938. Stinging Bear. Fat Tiger is right. This price should be accepted by a newbie in the bureau. Peng Tiger, shut up. Stinging Bear. Max, are you going to accept it? Xin Yuan. Max, did something happen? This was the first time Xin Yuan saw Bei Yunj appear, but he felt that something was going to happen with Bei Yunj's personality. Max, nothing. Max, it's just that my surname should be Qin. The four people in the group almost lost their grip on their phones. So this order happened to be that someone was going to attack Max's family? Crouched Eagle. Max, aren't you afraid that we'll investigate you if you expose yourself like this? These words were somewhat teasing. After all, to them Max was just a newbie. But soon after. Max, if you're afraid you won't send it. These words were arrogant and unruly, but surprisingly they liked them. They also knew what Max meant by doing this. She was putting the Qin family under her protection. After sending the message, Bei Yunj put his phone back in his pocket and stopped looking at the group chat. The others were still chatting. Stinging Bear, the Qin family of Country A? Are they very famous? Crouched Eagle, whether they're famous or not, are you going to fight with Max? Stinging Bear, that was not the case. Max had become famous overnight in the industry, and many people wanted to dig up information about her. The few of them were not interested in provoking a big shot. Xin Yuan, I'll take care of this matter. You guys keep your mouths shut. The rest of them responded lazily. At the same time, Xia Luqing was still driving, waiting for an acquaintance to inform her. The phone rang. After Xia Luqing picked it up, she received an unexpected message. What did you say? He didn't accept this order? Xia Luqing's expression changed. She did not expect this to happen. She immediately said, then give me the order. I'll take it. Originally, the intermediate members would not be able to receive this order, so Xia Luqing could only ask the senior members to accept it. However, if the senior members did not accept it, it would be in line with the rules to pass it to the intermediate members. Green Heron. The order has been cancelled. The man said awkwardly. Xia Luqing suddenly braked. She felt terrible. What did you say? That person continued. The VIP member who originally accepted this order was also suspended from accepting orders for a month. This was an instruction from the headquarters. Qing Lu, someone is protecting the Qin family. Could it be that you've offended the Qin clan? This is impossible. How could the Qin family know someone from CI7? Xia Luqing's face turned pale as she said emotionally. If you don't believe me, you can check backstage. The order has already been refunded. The person hung up the phone. Xia Luqing refused to believe it and immediately went backstage to check. But he didn't expect that the order would really be rejected. The next day, Bei Yunj had just gone downstairs and was about to leave when she heard Huashidu call out to her. Yun Yun. Bei Yunj came to her senses and immediately walked to the table to get the porridge. She was about to finish it in one gulp. The man raised his eyebrows and tapped the table with his slender fingers. Sit down and drink. But I'm rushing. After Bei Yunj met the man's gaze, she was silent for a moment before sitting down at the table. The man handed her the spoon. I'll send you to school later. Bei Yunj. She suddenly forgot that she had not told Huashidu about this. Actually, I'm not in a hurry. Bei Yunj buried her head in the porridge. You'll be late in half an hour. Aren't you anxious? Huashidu asked. End of chapter. Chapter 939. Bei Yunj choked on the porridge and immediately covered her mouth. However, just as she was about to find an excuse, she looked up and met the man's indiscernible eyes. "Brother, if I tell you now that I've quit school?" Baiyunj did not dare to look into the man's eyes. After all, Washidu had always been very strict with her regarding school matters. As expected. As soon as she finished speaking, the atmosphere was cold for a long time. She heard the man laugh mysteriously. His tone was light and lazy. "Yinyun, are you informing me?" "Baiyunj, that was not it." The man glanced at the little girl beside him. In the end, he adjusted his emotions and said slowly, "Eat first." Hearing this, Baiyunj ate silently without saying a word. She even drank the pure milk that Hoshidu handed her, which she did not like to drink. Today, in order to show off, she drank the entire glass. Hoshidu glanced over and saw that the little girl's ears and jawline were slightly red. He thought that the little girl was embarrassed. "Are we going to school later?" Hoshidu asked. This time, it was obvious that he wanted Baiyunj to tell the truth. Perhaps it was because she had stayed up all night to check on the Qin family's project, but Baiyunj felt a little dizzy. It was only when she heard Hoshidu's words that she reacted. To the Qin family. Baiyunj briefly told Hoshidu about the Qin family. Hoshidu rarely heard any rumors in the company. Indeed, he did not know that these changes had happened to the Qin family. "You've been worried about this for the past 2 days?" The man lifted his eyelids and asked unhurriedly. She did not tell him about the Qin family. She did not tell him about her suspension either. "Yes." Baiyunj was about to say something when Hoshidu suddenly glanced over. Tseng Su happened to walk over from the door. The man suddenly said, "Tseng Su, send her to the Qin family." "Baiyunj?" ? Tseng Su could clearly feel the resistance in Miss Pei's eyes and the warning to him. "Master Du, I think you have nothing to do at home. Why don't you?" Tseng Su had originally thought that these two were just throwing a tantrum which would give Master Du a way out. But when he saw the man's casual gaze, he immediately changed his words. "Why don't you rest for a while and wait for me to come back to pick you up and take you to the company?" After saying this. On the other side, Baiyunj glanced coldly at Tseng Su. It was a blatant threat. Tseng Su was howling in his heart. Was he the only one who wasn't human? Why did these two people treat him like this when they were throwing tantrums? "Brother, Assistant Tseng He," Baiyunj felt that she could still fight for it. Not long after. Baiyunj sat in the front passenger seat and couldn't help but laugh. "Dog man." Beside him, Tseng Su was trembling with fear and turned a deaf ear. Only Miss Pei would dare to scold Master Du like that. Judging from Master Du's expression just now, Miss Pei must have upset him somehow. However, when Tseng Su came out of the car, he received a text message from Hua Jinyao, reminding him to bring a jacket to Baiyunj. In the living room. "Why didn't you tell me about the Qin family?" Washidu was on the phone with someone. Fear flashed across Zhou Yu's eyes. "Sir, the Angel family is interfering in the Qin family's matters. However, the Angel family has always had a good relationship with the Fernan's family." Zhou Yu felt that this matter would make things difficult for Hoshidu, so he did not report it. However, he did not expect to be questioned. "What? Are Fernan's people teaching you how to do things?" The man's casual words caused panic to appear in Zhou Yu's eyes. "No, I wouldn't dare." Zhou Yu braced himself. "You can do whatever you want with the Angel family, but nothing can happen to the Qin family." The man took out a cigarette from the cigarette box, lit it and held it between his slender fingers. Zhou Yu finally understood what that girl's position in Hoshidu's heart was. He didn't even care about the Fernan's family. At this moment, the Qin Corporation was already waiting for someone to negotiate. "President Qin, as long as you hand over your shares with your ability, we don't mind letting you continue staying in the Qin Corporation." A few higher-ups who had never been favored by Qin Luyan deliberately added insult to injury. When old Master Qin heard this, his face darkened as he looked at these B** stars. "What's wrong? Do I need outsiders to tell me what to do when I created the company myself?" Old Master Qin's expression turned cold and his voice was dignified. Indeed, it scared many people. But then, the smug and sarcastic expressions on the faces of the higher-ups were exposed. "Old Master, do you still think that the Qin Corporation is your Qin Corporation? If Qin Luyan can't fork out those tens of billions, we'll even sue him until he goes to jail." Qin Luyan's ink-colored eyes swept across them. He did not panic. Instead, he was unbelievably calm. He sneered. "Sue me? Let's wait and see." "Secretary Wu." Qin Luyan shouted and Assistant Wu came over to take the USB flash drive in Qin Luyan's hand and walked to the display screen. Assistant Wu gritted his teeth. He still felt that Qin Luyan's efforts had all been fed to the dogs. How was Bei Yunj worth Boss Qin's attention? Over the past 6 months, Boss Qin had been collecting evidence of corruption among the higher-ups, as well as the criminal evidence of that person abroad. However, he did not expect that before the evidence had been collected, Boss Qin would have to perish together with these people in order to protect that Missy who only wanted to enjoy life for 100 years. Thinking of this, Assistant Wu was indignant, but he had no choice but to listen to Qin Luyan's arrangements. However, just as the evidence was about to be laid out in front of everyone, the information on the USB flash drive had only been refreshed for a second in front of everyone's eyes, but it had suddenly disappeared? Assistant Wu panicked. What's going on? Looking at this scene, Qin Luyan was much calmer than Assistant Wu. Miss Elena, good move, he said casually. Just as expected. The next moment, Elena walked into the conference room with a few people. Indeed, I still didn't see you tonight. Elena flipped her hair and sat opposite Qin Luyan. She supported her chin with both hands and was even more mesmerized by this man. You're so amazing, Boss Qin. In just half a year, he had actually collected so much evidence. If Qin Luyan was given another 2 to 3 years to strengthen himself, the Angel family would probably be played by him. Fortunately, Hans discovered this quickly. Otherwise, he would have really died in this man's hands. Elena smiled. Indeed, the most charming man is the most dangerous. What should I do? At this point, the woman's snow-white legs were already rubbing against the man's suit pants. But very quickly, the man avoided contact with Elena. She smiled. I really like a man like Boss Qin. The fragrance on Elena's body was pungent. She leaned closer to Qin Luyan and said in a cold voice, if I can't have it, I'd rather destroy it. Suddenly, someone suddenly barged in. End of chapter. Chapter 940. The door was slammed open. Bei Yunj had just been thinking about Huashidu. Just as she came back to her senses, she saw that everyone at the conference table was looking at her. She paused. I'm sorry. As soon as she finished speaking, however, Bei Yunj was not embarrassed at all as she sat beside Old Master Qin. She slowly glanced at the higher-ups and Elena opposite her. This was Elena's second time seeing Bei Yunj, but she froze. She felt that the Bei Yunj in front of her did not look like the girl she had seen before. Her eyes were cold and unruly. Her eyes were curved and filled with a lazy coldness. She was just wearing a loose hoodie and her black hair was loose and slightly curled. She was already so beautiful that no one could ignore her. Let's continue. Bei Yunj's voice was clear and melodious. It was difficult to detect the slight hoarseness in it as she leaned lazily against the back of the chair. The others sneered, feeling that this elder miss was truly a hedonistic person. The Qin family was about to fall, yet she still dared to be so arrogant. Only Hans, who was beside Elena, sensed a certain gaze and instinctively looked up. He did not expect to meet Bei Yunj's interested eyes. He had a feeling that this person was a little familiar, but this was his first time in our nation. How could he know someone from our nation? Big Brother hasn't sent out the information on the USB drive yet? Bei Yunj suddenly asked. This made Elena's eyes fill with sarcasm. Hans was the best hacker in our nation. The only time he was humiliated was when he fought with Max. However, it was easy for him to deal with Qin Luyan, who was an outsider. Miss, it's probably impossible to find the information in the USB drive. When Hans heard this, disdain appeared in his eyes as he smiled meaningfully. As soon as he finished speaking, Bei Yunj knew what was going on. She licked her red lips and chuckled softly. There was a faint coldness in the depths of her eyes. But then everyone heard Bei Yunj say leisurely, Is that so? Why don't you try yours? As soon as she finished speaking, the assistant, who was desperately refreshing the computer, frowned subconsciously. What on earth was Bei Yunj trying to do? Miss Pei, do you know how to use a computer? The assistant asked sarcastically. Very soon. Qin Luyan's magnetic voice rang out. Assistant Wu. Assistant Wu felt a chill run down her spine. She gritted her teeth and passed the laptop to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj smirked and started to restore the data on Qin Luyan's USB drive. This made Hans, who had inadvertently glanced at the screen, freeze with disdain. This girl obviously knows how to use a computer. Moreover, his skill level was not low. According to Bei Yunj's recovery speed, she would soon be able to recover the information that Qin Luyan had sorted out. Hans's face paled as a thought flashed through his mind. She immediately walked over with the glass of water in her hand. Within a few seconds, before anyone could react, they saw Hans accidentally spilling water on the keyboard. The data that Bei Yunj was halfway through was also lost due to the computer's automatic blue screen. "Oh, Miss Pei, I'm so sorry. My hand slipped and I couldn't hold it properly." Hans smiled and apologized. However, Qin Luyin suddenly got up and walked to Bei Yunj's side. He held Bei Yunj's hand and checked. Bei Yunj's cold and fair skin was faintly red. The hot water in Hans's hand had splashed on her hand. Does it hurt?" The man, who did not even frown just now, suddenly bent down and gently blew on the back of the girl's hot hand. His cold voice was lowered. End of this chapter. Chapter 941. "I am Miss Pei, I'm so sorry. My hand shook and I didn't hold it properly." Hans smiled and apologized. However, Qin Luyin suddenly got up and walked to Bei Yunj's side. He held Bei Yunj's hand and checked. Bei Yunj's cold and fair skin was faintly red. The hot water in Hans's hand had splashed on her hand. Does it hurt?" The man, who did not even frown just now, suddenly bent down and gently blew on the back of the girl's hot hand. His cold voice was lowered. Bei Yunj was not used to close contact. She subconsciously frowned and quickly avoided Qin Luyin's hand. "I'm fine." Bei Yunj's tone was a little cold. "Assistant Tseng, bring my computer up." At this moment, everyone then realized that there was a familiar face standing beside Bei Yunj, but they could not remember who it was. "Yes, Mississippi." With that said, Hans's expression changed. He was worried that Bei Yunj had a backup. Hadn't he already destroyed the backup? Could it be that this person still had a copy of the information? 5 minutes later, Assistant Tseng brought the computer upstairs. Bei Yunj stood up, pulled out the card reader from the computer, and plugged it into the equipment in the conference room. When she looked up again, Bei Yunj's eyes curved. She smiled lazily and said in a slightly cold voice, "Your hand shook, right? Continue, my computer is very waterproof." Hans's heart skipped a beat and he suddenly had a bad feeling. Then he saw several folders appear on the screen. Hans gritted his teeth and was about to pounce on her and smash Bei Yunj's computer when Bei Yunj stopped him. But Tseng Su, who was next to him, grabbed his hand. Tseng Su's gaze turned cold as he looked at him warningly. "What are you trying to do? Beatrice, do you know what family we are from?" Hans gritted his teeth in hatred. He had not expected such an accident. But the moment he finished speaking, before Hans could react, Tseng Su kicked his knee and he knelt down. "You?" Hans raised his head and heard the sound of a swivel chair sliding backwards. He saw Bei Yunj walking towards him. Without saying a word, she slapped him across the face. Hans's head was knocked to the side and his head was buzzing. The crisp sound caused the atmosphere to freeze by a few degrees. Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes curved, but she was still angry. She sneered condescendingly, "Do you know whose place this is?" "What are you doing?" Elena was furious. She did not expect that someone would dare to touch her men. "Bei Yunj, do you know what will happen to the Qin family if you dare to go against me?" Elena's gloomy eyes fell on Bei Yunj. The Angel family was a big family with a lot of assets. It was impossible to make them fall immediately. A centipede dies but never falls down. Bei Yunj said unhurriedly, "Tseng Su, continue." Suddenly, Tseng Su then gave Hans a fierce punch, causing his eyes to turn black. Hans howled in pain. Tseng Su grabbed his collar and continued to punch him in the face. Bei Yunj's bright and unruly eyes revealed a terrifying danger and hostility. She said unhurriedly, "Did you see that? In my place, you're no different from other people's dogs." Everyone felt their scalps go numb for some reason. They felt that they would be next. Even Qin Luyin and Old Master Qin felt that the Bei Yunj in front of them was extremely unfamiliar. "What are you looking at? Hurry up and call the police." Elena was furious and glared at the higher-ups of the Qin family. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.